Jordan's Muggsy quote. Michael Jordan allegedly said, "Shoot it, you F-word midget," to Muggsy Bogues during the 1995 NBA playoffs between the Chicago Bulls and Charlotte Hornets, and it's still one of the most infamous trash talk moments ever. Bogues was listed at just 5'3", making him the shortest player in NBA history. Jordan was already the league's most feared trash talker during the 1990s, and during crunch time of that playoff game, he intentionally backed away from Bogues defensively and dared him to shoot. The insult directly attacked Bogues' height, which had been a target throughout his entire career. According to the story, Bogues missed the jumper right after Jordan said it. That moment spread across basketball culture for decades because fans believed Jordan mentally destroyed Bogues' confidence permanently. Multiple articles and documentaries repeated it for years. But here's the thing about Bogues. He survived being shot as a child, played 14 NBA seasons, and became a starting point guard despite every size disadvantage imaginable. Jordan, publicly reducing him to midget status, turned one of the toughest players in league history into the subject of a basketball myth. Bogues later disputed parts of the story and denied Jordan psychologically ruined him. Even with that denial, the moment stayed permanently attached to Jordan's killer mentality image. Clips and retellings still go viral decades later whenever the greatest trash talkers are discussed, and it's not hard to see why. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, who's Jeremy Lin? In February of 2012, Jeremy Lin exploded into global fame with the New York Knicks, going from an undrafted bench player sleeping on teammates' couches to the biggest story in sports almost overnight. During his breakout stretch, Lin averaged massive scoring and assist numbers while leading New York on a winning streak, with SportsCenter coverage dominating television for days and Knicks ticket prices skyrocketing across the city. Before a nationally televised Knicks vs. Lakers game, reporters asked Kobe Bryant about Lin's sudden rise, and Kobe responded with comments implying he barely knew who Lin was, saying things like, "What the heck is going on?" and "Who is this kid?" during media interviews. The disrespect angle became enormous because Lin was literally the biggest basketball story in America at that exact moment. Lin jerseys were selling worldwide at historic levels. Many fans interpreted Kobe's comments as dismissive and condescending, while others viewed it as classic psychological warfare. Then Lin immediately responded with one of the best games of his career. Against Kobe and the Lakers, Lin scored 38 points, with 7 assists at Madison Square Garden. Years later, Lin admitted Kobe's comments motivated him heavily entering that matchup. Their relationship later became tense when they became teammates on the Lakers during the 2014 to 2015 season, with Lin revealing Kobe barely spoke to him for long stretches after Lin challenged him about leadership. The original "Who is this kid?" moment still stands as one of the coldest dismissals ever aimed at a rising star. Pierce spits. During a 2004 preseason game between the Boston Celtics and Cleveland Cavaliers, Paul Pierce spit toward the Cavaliers bench area, and the NBA fined him $15,000 for it. LeBron was entering only his second NBA season at just 20 years old and already receiving enormous national attention when tension built throughout the game from constant jawing between the two. Former teammate Kendrick Perkins later suggested Pierce's dislike of LeBron started directly from the hype surrounding LeBron entering the league. Pierce also later admitted to the spitting incident publicly years afterward. Reports stated the confrontation nearly escalated further near the locker rooms after the game. Spitting at an opponent is viewed across sports as one of the ultimate signs of disrespect because it goes beyond normal trash talk entirely. The moment became even bigger historically because Pierce and LeBron later developed one of the defining rivalries of the 2000s, with Celtics versus Cavaliers becoming one of the NBA's premier playoff rivalries later in the decade. Many veterans in that era were genuinely irritated by the media attention surrounding LeBron before he had accomplished much in the playoff, and Pierce represented old-school veteran competitiveness, openly challenging the league's newest superstar. Pierce continued taking verbal shots at LeBron throughout media appearances, even after retirement. The spitting incident remains one of the clearest examples of NBA rivalry, hatred becoming personal rather than just competitive basketball. Dame waves goodbye. On April 23, 2019, Portland and Oklahoma City were tied at 115 with under 2 seconds left in Game 5 of the first round. The series was already 3-1 in Portland's favor. Damian Lillard held the ball near half court and waited, then pulled up from roughly 37 feet directly over Paul George and hit the series-ending buzzer beater. What made it disrespectful was everything after. Instead of celebrating normally, Lillard slowly stared directly at the Thunder bench and began waving goodbye with one hand, while players and fans were still frozen in shock. Earlier in the season, the Thunder had openly mocked Portland after regular season wins, and Westbrook and Lillard had one of the most hostile playoff rivalries in the NBA during those years, complete with multiple technical fouls and constant trash talk. Lillard later explained the wave was retaliation for how the Thunder acted after their only win in the series. The disrespect became even bigger because the shot basically ended an entire era of Thunder basketball. Only months later, Paul George requested a trade to the Los Angeles Clippers. Soon after, Russell Westbrook was traded to the Houston Rockets. The Thunder completely blew up the roster. Lillard scored 50 points in that closeout game, made 10 threes, and hit the winner over one of the league's best perimeter defenders. Paul George later called it a bad shot, which only made the moment more famous when Lillard immediately responded publicly. The wave became symbolic of an entire franchise era ending. Bledsoe tweet. On October 22nd, 2017, Eric Bledsoe tweeted 4 words. "I don't want to be here." No explanation, no context, no professionalism. The Phoenix Suns had started the season 0-3 after being blown out by the Los Angeles Clippers 130-88, and days earlier, Portland had beaten Phoenix by 48 points in what was the worst season opening loss in franchise history. Bledsoe was supposed to be Phoenix's best player at the time. Instead, he publicly embarrassed the organization while still under contract. The tweet instantly destroyed Phoenix's trade leverage because every team in the league now knew he wanted out and the relationship was finished. The Suns sent him home almost immediately after. What made it even more disrespectful was the attempted explanation afterward. Bledsoe claimed the tweet was actually about being at a hair salon with his girlfriend and had nothing to do with the Suns. Almost nobody believed it because reports already existed that he wanted a trade before the season started. Phoenix general manager Ryan McDonough publicly pushed back against the explanation, making the situation even messier. The NBA fined Bledsoe $10,000 over the tweet. That level of bluntness from an active player toward his own team was almost unheard of at the time. Only weeks later, the Suns traded him to the Milwaukee Bucks. Ironically, Phoenix eventually benefited long-term, while Bledsoe became part of multiple high-level Milwaukee playoff teams. But in the moment, it was one of the most publicly disrespectful exits in modern NBA history. Drunk Jordan, former NHL star Jeremy Roenick, told this story publicly years later, and it sounds completely impossible. According to Roenick, he spent an entire day golfing with Michael Jordan before a Chicago Bulls game in the early 1990s. Roenick claimed Jordan played 36 holes of golf, drank around 10 beers, then went directly to the arena and dominated an NBA game anyway. Jordan allegedly told Roenick beforehand that he'd still destroy the other team despite the drinking and golf. According to Roenick, Jordan then scored over 50 points anyway. Some versions cite 52 points. Other versions reference 44 points against the Cleveland Cavaliers on March 28, 1992. Either way, the core point stayed the same. Jordan treated an NBA game like something he could dominate casually after partying and golfing all day. That's exactly why players from Jordan's era describe him almost mythologically. The story also perfectly matched Jordan's reputation during the 1990s as an obsessive competitor, gambler, golfer, and trash talker who constantly searched for ways to humiliate opponents. The reason this story survived for decades is because it fits the larger Jordan mythology perfectly. Even after drinking heavily and spending an entire day away from basketball preparation, he supposedly still treated an NBA game like light work. It's disrespectful, not because he insulted anyone verbally. It's disrespectful because the story makes NBA competition itself sound like it wasn't enough to seriously challenge him that night. Wade and LeBron mocked Dirk during Game 4 of the 2011 NBA Finals between the Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks. Dirk Nowitzki played through flu-like symptoms and a reported fever and still scored 21 points while hitting the game-winning layup to tie the series 2-2. Before Game 5, cameras caught D. Wade and LeBron James walking through the arena hallway, fake coughing and joking about Dirk's illness, and the footage spread everywhere almost instantly. Miami's Big Three had just formed in 2010, and the Heat entered the finals as overwhelming favorites against a Dallas team many analysts viewed as older and slower. Many fans and analysts immediately viewed the fake coughing as arrogant because Miami hadn't won a championship together yet. Dirk already had a reputation as one of the league's toughest playoff performers, having played through injuries multiple times throughout his postseason career. The mock coughing was widely interpreted as accusing Dirk of exaggerating or faking sickness, and Dirk later publicly called the behavior childish and disrespectful. Wade himself later admitted the moment was immature. The moment became historically embarrassing because Miami lost the finals afterward. Dallas won the next 2 games and captured the championship in 6 games. Dirk won Finals MVP after averaging 26 points and nearly 10 rebounds per game in the series. LeBron averaged only 17.8 points per game, and he scored just 8 points in Game 4. The Mavericks locker room reportedly used the fake cough moment as direct motivation. Even over a decade later, it's still brought up whenever Miami's arrogance or LeBron's early Heat era is discussed. Kerr lets players coach. On February 12, 2018, Steve Kerr intentionally handed coaching responsibilities to players during a Golden State Warriors game against the Phoenix Suns, and it was one of the most disrespectful things that's happened in an NBA game in years. Kerr gave the clipboard to Iggy during timeouts. While Draymond Green and David West also participated in coaching huddles, cameras showed Iggy drawing up plays while Kerr literally stood away from the huddle. The Warriors had won the 2017 NBA championship with a roster that included Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Iggy. Phoenix, meanwhile, finished the year with the NBA's worst record at 21 wins and 61 losses. Golden State entered the game as massive favorites and won it comfortably by 46 points, 129-83. Many fans interpreted it as Golden State publicly announcing they didn't need a real coach to beat Phoenix. Kerr later explained he was frustrated with his team's energy and wanted players to take ownership. Even with that explanation, the optics were brutal for the Suns. The Warriors' dominance during the Kevin Durant era made the moment feel even harsher because Golden State had already established a reputation for casually humiliating weaker opponents, frequently blowing teams out by 30 or more points during those seasons. The Suns were in the middle of years of instability, coaching changes, and rebuilding at the time. Seeing opposing players casually run the coaching staff against them became symbolic of how non-competitive Phoenix looked during that stretch. Iverson's step over. During Game 1 of the 2001 NBA Finals between the Philadelphia and Los Angeles Lakers, Allen Iverson hit a difficult jumper over Tyronn Lue near the baseline late in overtime. Lue fell backward onto the court after defending the play. Instead of walking around him, Iverson dramatically stepped directly over Lue's body while staring downward. The Lakers had entered the finals 11-0 in the playoffs with Shaq and Kobe Bryant at the peak of their dynasty years, and Philadelphia was a massive underdog. Iverson had led the NBA in scoring during the regular season with over 31 points per game and carried the entire Sixers offense throughout the postseason. Lue had specifically been inserted into the game because of his defense pressure on Iverson. The step over was unnecessary and completely theatrical because Iverson could have easily walked around Lue. Instead, he deliberately stepped over his chest area. The image became one of the defining photos of the entire 2000s NBA era. Philadelphia won the game 107-101 in overtime, snapping the Lakers' undefeated playoff streak. Iverson scored 48 points in the game. Lue later admitted the moment followed him for years because of how iconic it became. Reebok later released step-over versions of Iverson's answer, sneakers based directly on the moment. Even though the Lakers eventually won the series in 5 games, Game 1 became permanently remembered because of the step-over. It helped cement Iverson's reputation as one of the most fearless and disrespectful competitors ever. Shaq versus Dudley. On March 28, 1999, during a game between the Los Angeles Lakers and New York Knicks at the Great Western Forum, Shaq backed Chris Dudley down near the basket, spun baseline, and violently dunked directly over him while Dudley was underneath the rim, absorbing the contact. That context matters because Dudley was 6'11", around 270 pounds, and known specifically for physical interior defense against dominant post scorers like Shaq. He wasn't a weak defender. He was literally brought in to battle players like Shaq. As Shaq came down from the dunk, he extended his arm and shoved Dudley backward onto the floor. Dudley immediately got furious and threw the basketball directly at Shaq in retaliation. The entire arena exploded. The sequence became legendary because of how humiliating it looked visually. Massive dunk, direct physical overpowering, shove afterward, defender throwing the ball out of anger. It looked like Shaq was trying to embarrass Dudley personally. Dudley had a reputation as a physical player willing to use hard fouls and toughness against dominant big men. Seeing even him get physically overwhelmed made the play feel even more disrespectful. At the time, Shaq was near his physical peak. The Lakers were turning into contenders, and almost every team carried extra large centers just to deal with it. None of it really worked. Years later, Shaq himself called it one of his favorite highlights ever. The NBA also became far stricter about post-dunk shoves and taunting, partly because moments like this could easily escalate into fights. Even today, fans still regularly call it the most disrespectful dunk ever. Horry versus Ainge. During Robert Horry's time with the Phoenix Suns in 1997, tensions between Horry and the coaching staff escalated badly during a timeout. Horry became frustrated with his roles and with criticism coming from the bench. Then he snapped. He threw a towel directly at Danny Ainge's face from close range on the sideline in front of players, coaches, media, and fans. Ainge was an assistant coach for Phoenix at the time. What made it especially disrespectful was that it was directed at a coach. It happened publicly during an active NBA game environment, and it showed complete disregard for authority. NBA locker rooms are extremely hierarchical, and publicly disrespecting a coach like that crossed a major line. It basically communicated that Horry didn't respect Ainge or his authority at all. Phoenix suspended Horry for 2 games after the incident, and the relationship with the organization became completely fractured. Soon after, Phoenix traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers. That trade then completely changed NBA history. Horry later became a 7-time NBA champion, one of the most clutch playoff shooters ever, and a core role player in multiple dynasties. One emotional moment helped lead Horry toward becoming one of the most decorated role players ever. The disrespect also stood out because Danny Ainge himself was known as one of the NBA's toughest and most confrontational personalities during his playing career, constantly trash-talking and irritating opponents. Even with that reputation, Horry still crossed a line few players ever cross with coaches. A player publicly throwing something into his own coach's face during NBA action doesn't happen very often. Harden's stare. On February 28, 2018, during Rockets vs. Clippers at Staples Center, Houston led 28-7 during the first quarter when James Harden isolated against Wesley Johnson near the top of the key. Harden hit Johnson with a crossover and step-back combination that caused Johnson to completely lose balance and fall onto the floor. Normally, players immediately shoot once they create separation. Harden didn't. Instead, he literally paused while Johnson was still on the ground and stood there staring directly at him for multiple seconds before finally shooting the three-pointer, which still went in. It looked like Harden was deciding whether Johnson even deserved an immediate shot attempt. The visual became one of the defining NBA clips of the entire decade. Fans replayed it constantly because the pause made the humiliation feel completely intentional. The internet exploded with memes, obituary jokes about Johnson's ankles, slow motion edits, reaction videos, and freeze frame. Yahoo Sports joked Harden became the sole legal owner of Wesley Johnson's ankles after the move. ESPN later called it one of the defining images from Harden's MVP season. The disrespect became even worse because Harden looked completely calm during the sequence. No celebration, no screaming, just a stare, a wait, and a casual shot. Years later, Harden was asked why he waited before shooting, and he responded, "I was just wondering what he was doing." That quote made the moment even more disrespectful retroactively. In 2017 to 2018, Harden won NBA MVP. Houston won 65 games and finished with the best record in franchise history, and Harden averaged over 30 points per game. The play became one of the most humiliating one-on-one possessions ever captured on camera. KG versus Duncan. During the 1999 NBA playoffs between the Minnesota Timberwolves and San Antonio Spurs, Kevin Garnett allegedly said "Happy Mother's Day M-word" to Tim Duncan during a game. The line became infamous because Duncan's mother had died from breast cancer one day before Duncan's 14th birthday. Duncan has openly discussed how devastating his mother's death was to his childhood. His mother, Ione Duncan, made him promise he'd graduate college before entering the NBA, and Duncan honored that promise by staying 4 years at Wake Forest despite already being projected as a top pick earlier in his career. Garnett already had a growing reputation as one of the most vicious trash talkers in basketball and constantly talked throughout games targeting opponents personally. Duncan was known as the exact opposite personality-wise, rarely reacting emotionally during games and almost never engaging in public feuds. The alleged comment spread through NBA circles for years because of how personal it supposedly was. Multiple former NBA players referenced Garnett, crossing personal lines with opponents during game. Richard Jefferson later claimed Garnett had done far more disrespectful things than many fans realized. Garnett and Duncan were also direct rivals at power forward during that era, constantly compared throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. Duncan won the 1999 championship and finals MVP that same postseason. The story survived for decades, largely because Duncan never publicly tried to turn it into media drama, and Garnett never fully confirmed the exact quote publicly. Many players and fans still cite it as one of the harshest examples of psychological warfare ever associated with the NBA. Shaq disses Kobe. In June 2008, shortly after the Lakers lost the NBA Finals to the Boston Celtics, Shaq performed a freestyle rap at a nightclub, attacking Kobe Bryant directly. Kobe and Shaq already had one of the most famous teammate feuds ever, after the Lakers dynasty from 2000 to 2004 was filled with constant tension between the two stars. Shaq was traded from the Lakers in 2000, partly because the organization chose Kobe as the franchise centerpiece. After the split, both players constantly competed to prove who mattered more to the dynasty, and Kobe had not yet won a championship without Shaq entering the 2008 finals. The most famous line from the freestyle, repeated over and over, was, "Kobe, tell me how my butt tastes." The crowd loudly joined in during the performance. Videos immediately spread across the internet. The disrespect was enormous because Shaq publicly humiliated Kobe after a finals loss and mocked him for being unable to win championships without him. During the freestyle, Shaq also referenced Kobe allegedly informing authorities about Shaq's personal life during the Colorado investigation era, rapping, "Kobe ratted me out, that's why I'm getting divorced." That line made the diss even more personal and controversial. The timing made the disrespect feel worse because Kobe was already under massive criticism after losing the finals, and Shaq was essentially kicking him publicly while he was already being attacked. Kobe eventually answered by winning championships in 2009 and 2010 without Shaq. Ironically, after Kobe won in 2009, Shaq jokingly congratulated him by referencing the diss track again. The freestyle remains one of the earliest viral NBA internet moments ever. Barkley versus Angola. During the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, Charles Barkley told reporters before the game against Angola, "I don't know anything about Angola, but Angola's in trouble." The quote immediately became one of the most famous Olympic basketball lines ever and was viewed as disrespectful because Barkley openly dismissed an entire country before even playing them. The Team USA Dream Team roster included Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Karl Malone, Scottie Pippen, Patrick Ewing, and Barkley himself, making it the greatest collection of basketball talent ever assembled. Angola was a massive underdog entering the game. During the actual matchup, Barkley escalated things much further by delivering a violent elbow to Angolan player Herlander Coimbra during a physical exchange. Coimbra reportedly weighed around 174 pounds, while Barkley was around 250 pounds. The elbow drew loud boos from the crowd in Barcelona, and Barkley received a technical foul after the play. According to later stories, Michael Jordan feared Barkley might actually get thrown out of the Olympics because of the incident. The Dream Team was supposed to represent basketball globally in a positive way, and instead, one of the biggest headlines became Barkley attacking an Angolan player. Barkley later defended himself by claiming Angola had been playing physically and committing cheap shots. Team USA still destroyed Angola 116-48. The blowout itself added to the disrespect factor because the game was never remotely competitive. The "Angola's in trouble" quote still gets replayed constantly whenever Dream Team history is discussed, representing peak Barkley behavior with zero fear of backlash. Vince leaks play. During a December 2004 game against the Seattle Supersonics, Vince Carter allegedly looked toward the Seattle bench before a late game possession with around 29 seconds remaining while Toronto trailed and said, "It's a flare, it's a flare," reportedly informing Seattle which play Toronto was about to run. 3 members of the Sonics organization reportedly confirmed hearing it, according to the Tacoma News Tribune. The context of the story mattered enormously. By the start of the 2004 to 2005 season, Carter's relationship with the Raptors had completely collapsed. He publicly criticized the organization, complained about management decisions, and looked visibly disengaged on the court. Reports surfaced that he no longer wanted to dunk aggressively, and his effort level became a constant talking point around the league. Carter was supposed to be the face of the franchise after Toronto built the entire organization around him. He was arguably the biggest athlete in Canadian sport, had brought the Raptors to the playoffs, and was only 27 years old. Only days after the incident, Toronto traded him to the New Jersey Nets. Then came the part that made Raptors fans even angrier. Before the trade, Carter averaged around 15 points per game and looked disengaged physically. After the trade to New Jersey, his scoring exploded immediately, and he averaged over 27 points per game with the Nets that season. To Raptors fans, that made the alleged Sonics incident feel even more disrespectful retroactively. Very few NBA controversies ever involve accusations of a player helping the opponent during live action, and many Toronto fans still consider it one of the most painful moments in franchise history. Kobe roasts Kwame Brown became the first high school player ever drafted #1 overall in 2001, when Michael Jordan personally selected him in Washington at just 18 years old, entering the league with massive expectations. Brown struggled badly with confidence and consistency throughout his career, and by the mid-2000s, he was teammates with Kobe Bryant on the Lakers after the Shaq era ended. During a later public speaking appearance, Kobe described moments where Brown allegedly begged not to receive the ball if he was open near the basket, explaining that Brown became so nervous offensively that he didn't even want open scoring opportunities. What made the story brutal was how openly Kobe mocked him in front of audiences. Kobe basically described Brown as mentally broken by pressure and fear of failure. That became extremely disrespectful because Brown was his former teammate. The comments became public entertainment. Fans laughed at the story constantly afterward, and it reinforced Brown's reputation as a draft bust. This was already during an era where stories about Kobe verbally destroying teammates were common, and teammates regularly struggled playing beside him. But the Kwame story stood out because it sounded genuinely humiliating. Kobe made it sound like Brown was actively hiding from responsibility on the court. The disrespect became amplified online because the clip spread everywhere for years afterward. Fans constantly referenced it whenever discussing bad teammates, draft busts, nervous players, and Kobe's competitive. Kwame Brown later responded publicly during internet rants and interviews, defending parts of his career and pushing back against how he became a basketball punchline. Historically, though, the Kobe story remains one of the defining examples of a superstar publicly embarrassing a former teammate. Klay destroys Magruder. On January 30th, 2021, after a game between the Warriors and Pistons, Golden State destroyed Detroit 118-91, and Rodney Magruder approached the Warriors bench exchanging words with players after apparently taking issue with something said during the game. Klay Thompson wasn't even playing at the time. He was injured, recovering from an Achilles tear and sitting near the broadcast area while mic'd up during the post-game interaction. When broadcasters asked Klay what was happening, he responded, "This dude might be out of the league soon. He's probably mad about that." Then Klay kept going, adding, "He's over here trying to start something like he's a good player or something." That made the moment especially disrespectful because Magruder was still an active NBA player, and Klay publicly attacked both his talent and career stability. While the comments aired immediately, the insult went viral because it sounded unbelievably blunt. NBA trash talk usually stays on the court, private and indirect. Klay basically told the world Magruder was irrelevant and close to unemployment. The irony made it even crazier because Klay normally had a reputation as quiet, relaxed, easygoing, and far less confrontational than Draymond Green, making the sudden ruthlessness feel shocking. Draymond Green later joined the trash talk too, escalating the situation publicly afterward. The disrespect also hit especially hard because Magruder had spent years fighting just to stay in the NBA through G League. Time, two-way contracts, bench roles, and defensive specialist work. Ironically, Magruder did remain in the NBA briefly afterward, which fans later used jokingly against Klay. Rodman kicks cameraman. On January 15th, 1997, during a game between the Chicago Bulls and Minnesota Timberwolves, Dennis Rodman chased a loose ball near the baseline, fell into photographers sitting courtside, and as he got up, intentionally kicked cameraman Eugene Amos in the groin area. Amos immediately collapsed in pain on the floor. The game was delayed for several minutes while medical personnel attended to him, and Amos was eventually taken off on a stretcher. What made the moment especially disrespectful was Rodman's reaction afterward. Rodman suggested the cameraman exaggerated the injury and reportedly said, "Don't pretend you're more seriously hurt than you are." Commissioner David Stern suspended Rodman for 11 games and fined him $25,000, making it one of the longest suspensions in league history for non-drug related conduct at the time. Rodman also lost over $1 million in salary because of the suspension, and later paid a settlement to Amos reportedly worth around $200,000. Rodman was already one of the most controversial athletes in the world at the time, and a key part of the Bulls dynasty, alongside Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. The disrespect factor was enormous because the victim wasn't even an opposing player. Rodman attacked a working media member who was simply doing his job courtside. Many media outlets described it as one of the lowest moments of his career. The clip instantly became one of the most replayed controversy moments of the entire Bulls dynasty era, and still appears constantly in compilations of the craziest NBA incidents ever. Jordan warns Elo. With 3 seconds left in Game 5 of the 1989 NBA playoffs first round, Cleveland led Chicago 100-99 after Craig Elo hit a driving layup. The Cavaliers had won 57 games that season and were favored entering the series against Chicago. Chicago inbounded the ball to Michael Jordan for the final possession. Jordan caught the pass near the foul line area, while Elo defended him tightly, elevated, and hit the game-winning jumper over Elo at the buzzer, a shot that instantly became one of the most iconic moments in sports history. What added to the disrespect was the psychological battle before the shot. Craig Elo later recalled talking trash to Jordan beforehand, reportedly telling Jordan, "You're not going to score." Jordan allegedly smiled and responded confidently that Elo couldn't stop him. Many retellings of the story evolved into Jordan basically telling Elo exactly what was coming before scoring anyway. The disrespect came from Jordan's absolute certainty. He wasn't just confident he'd shoot. He was confident Cleveland already knew what was coming and still couldn't stop it. After making the shot, Jordan celebrated while Elo collapsed backward onto the floor. The image of Elo falling became permanently attached to Jordan's greatness, and Cleveland's season ended instantly. Jordan finished with 44 points in the game. The shot became the first truly defining playoff moment of Jordan's career and started his reputation as the most feared closer in basketball. Elo, unfortunately, became permanently associated with failure, despite being a very solid NBA player. This moment became one of the most disrespectful ever because Jordan essentially announced the ending before it happened and still delivered. CP3 fake laugh. During a January 2018 game between the Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors, cameras captured Steve Kerr saying something toward Chris Paul while walking near the sideline. Paul responded by laughing directly at Kerr's face. The second Kerr turned away, Paul instantly stopped smiling and looked completely annoyed. The facial transition became an instant internet moment. Fans replayed the clip constantly because the switch from fake happiness to irritation happened almost instantly. Rockets versus Warriors was the NBA's biggest rivalry at the time, and Houston was one of the only teams capable of seriously challenging Golden State during the Kevin Durant era. Paul especially had a history of conflicts with Draymond Green and Golden State players. The disrespect factor came from how obviously fake the laugh was. Paul looked like he was mocking Kerr rather than genuinely reacting to him. Their 2018 Western Conference Finals became one of the most intense playoff series of the decade. Years later, Paul finally explained the moment publicly, saying he fake laughed because wasn't anything funny. That explanation made the moment even more legendary online. The clip spread constantly on NBA social media and meme pages, and fans began using the GIF to represent fake politeness in real-life situations. The disrespect became ironic later because Paul eventually joined the Warriors in 2023. The same Steve Kerr he fake laughed at later became his head coach, and reporters immediately asked both men about the old moment after the trade. The clip remains one of the most recognizable NBA reaction memes ever, and unlike most disrespect moments involving fights or trash talk, this one became famous entirely because of one facial expression. Beverly's claim. Patrick Beverly told Steph Curry, "The next 5 years are mine," during the 2019 to 2020 season opener. The Clippers had just beaten the Warriors, and Beverly walked up to one of the greatest players alive and basically claimed the NBA was his now. Curry's reported response, "Aren't you 31? That one sentence said everything. Beverly was already 31 years old when he made that declaration. Not 22, not 25, 31, the same age as Curry himself. And over the next 5 years, Beverly didn't make a single All-Star team, didn't make an All-NBA team, didn't reach a finals. He bounced from the Clippers to the Timberwolves to the Jazz, to the Lakers, to the Bulls, to the 76ers, and eventually overseas. Meanwhile, Curry won the 2022 NBA championship, won finals, MVP that same year, made multiple All-NBA teams. The Warriors won a title during the exact 5-year window. Beverly claimed belonged to him. Not some of it, the whole thing. And Beverly's most memorable moments from that stretch weren't highlight plays or playoff runs. They were controversies, viral clips, headlines for the wrong reasons. Fans started reposting the quote regularly toward the end of that 5-year window, just to remind everyone it existed. What makes this so brutal is that Curry immediately spotted the flaw. His response wasn't even a real comeback. It was just a simple question about age, because the logic broke down instantly. Players don't take over the NBA in their 30s. They maintain at best. Beverly didn't even do that. He spent 5 years changing uniforms while Curry added a ring and a Finals MVP to an already legendary career. The next 5 years weren't Beverly's. They weren't even close. LeBron is done. In May 2015, a Warriors fan named Eric Martin posted a tweet that read, "LeBron is 30. This stuff won't go on for much longer, thank God." And honestly, at the time, it didn't even sound crazy. LeBron had just turned 30. He'd already played 12 NBA seasons. He'd gone to 5 consecutive finals. The mileage was real. And most superstars in NBA history had started declining in their early 30s. That's just how it usually goes. Except LeBron didn't get the memo. After that tweet went up, he reached the finals in 2015, then 2016, then 2017, then 2018. He won the 2016 championship, leading Cleveland back from a 3-1 deficit in the most remarkable finals comeback in league history. He won Finals MVP that year. Then in 2020, at age 35, he won another championship with the Los Angeles Lakers and took home another Finals MVP. He became the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He surpassed 40,000 career points, a number nobody in NBA history had ever reached before. He kept making all NBA teams deep into his late 30s. He was still an all-star past age 40. The tweet became more famous every single year LeBron kept being elite. Multiple media outlets revisited it specifically because the prediction had become so spectacularly wrong by 2026, more than 11 years after it was posted. And here's the thing that makes it truly brutal. He didn't just stay relevant after the tweet. He won championships. He broke the scoring record. He became the first player ever to reach 40,000 points. Some of the most historic individual accomplishments in NBA history happened after that tweet called it over. The finery didn't stop. It actually hadn't even peaked yet. MJ doesn't help. Michael Jordan was selected 3rd overall in the 1984 NBA draft. After the pick, Bulls general manager Rod Thorne made a statement that now lives in infamy. He said, "We wish he were 7 feet, but he isn't." And then followed it up with, "Jordan isn't going to turn this franchise around." To be fair, there was real context. The NBA in 1984 was dominated by big men. Hakeem Olajuwon had just gone 1st overall. Teams built around centers. The Bulls had won only 55 games combined across the previous 2 seasons and had gone 27-55 the year before drafting Jordan. Thorne wasn't operating in a vacuum, but the statement still aged terribly. Jordan won Rookie of the Year. Then he won 10 scoring titles, 5 most valuable player awards, 6 championships, 6 finals, MVP awards, 14 All-Star selections, 11 All-NBA team selections, Defensive Player of the Year. He became the most globally recognized basketball player in history. The Bulls before Jordan had no championships, no national relevance, and no identity as a premier franchise. After Jordan, they had 6 titles, one of the greatest dynasties in sports history, and a global brand that still generates revenue decades later. The irony is massive. Thorne said Jordan wouldn't turn the franchise around. Jordan didn't just turn it around. He built a dynasty from scratch, drove NBA popularity worldwide throughout the 1990s, and transformed Chicago into one of the most valuable sports franchises on the planet. The quote is remembered as one of the worst front office evaluations in league history, not because Thorne was careless, but because the player he underestimated became the single most influential figure the NBA has ever produced. That's a tough one to live down. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Brunson, not 1A. In December of 2023, Becky Hammon went on television and argued that Jalen Brunson was not a true 1A player for the Knicks. Her reasoning centered on size. Historically, she said, smaller guards don't lead championship teams, with Steph Curry being the rare exception. At the time, it wasn't an outrageous position. Brunson had never been an MVP candidate. He'd spent most of his early career playing alongside Luka in Dallas. He was an all-star level guard, sure, but a true franchise centerpiece? That was the debate. Brunson immediately started answering it. He'd already led New York to 47 wins in his first season with the Knicks. then 50 wins the following year, their first 50-win season in over a decade. His playoff numbers consistently improved compared to his regular season numbers. His isolation efficiency and late-game production ranked among the league's best. Defenses were built entirely to stop him, and his production kept rising anyway. He became one of the highest usage players in basketball. He ranked near the top of the league consistently in fourth quarter scoring. He became the face of the biggest basketball market in the country. And then in 2026, he led the New York Knicks to the NBA Finals and won Eastern Conference Finals Most Valuable Player honor. Hammond was still defending the comment even after Brunson reached the finals, saying publicly, "I said what I said," which is fine. But what she said was that Brunson wasn't a 1A player. And what Brunson did was become one of the clearest examples of a true 1A player in the entire league. The gap between the claim and the reality couldn't be wider. He went from being questioned as a franchise centerpiece to proving beyond any reasonable doubt that he is exactly that. Fine and West. In December of 2022, Morant was asked which team concerned him most heading into the season. He pointed to the Celtics and then waved off the entire Western Conference by saying, "Nah, I'm fine in the West." Memphis looked real at that point. The Grizzlies had won 56 games the previous season. Morant was an all-NBA player. The franchise felt like it was building towards something serious. Then the actual results arrived. Memphis lost in the first round of the 2023 playoffs to the Los Angeles Lakers, who entered that series as the 7th seed. The Grizzlies had home court advantage. They still lost in 6 games. The quote immediately became ammunition the moment that series ended. Then things got worse. Morant's off-court suspensions disrupted the franchise significantly. Injuries created roster problems. Memphis never reached the Western Conference Finals after the statement was made. Never reached the NBA Finals. Meanwhile, the West kept getting stronger. The Denver Nuggets won a champion. The Dallas Mavericks reached the finals. The Oklahoma City Thunder emerged as one of the league's top teams. The Minnesota Timberwolves became legitimate contenders. The conference was arguably harder after the quote than it was when Morant made it. That's what makes this statement sting so much. It wasn't just a player showing confidence. Players are supposed to believe in their teams. It was a specific claim about Western Conference dominance that Memphis never came close to backing up. Instead of becoming the team everyone feared, the Grizzlies became one of the biggest what-if situations of the entire era. The quote remains one of the most referenced examples of premature confidence in modern NBA history because nothing that came after it even partially validated it. Not 3, not 4. On July 10th, 2010, LeBron James stood on stage at the Miami Heat's welcome celebration and told everyone listening, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. He had just teamed up with D. Wade and Chris Bosh. All 3 were in their primes. All 3 were perennial all-stars. The Heat were championship favorites before training camp even started. The problem was the expectations that quote created. Every Heat loss got magnified. Every playoff struggle became national news. When Miami lost the 2011 final to the Dallas Mavericks, after entering as favorites, the clip was replayed everywhere. LeBron averaged only 17.8 points per game in that series and scored just 8 points in Game 4. Then the Heat recovered and won championships in 2012 and 2013. 2 titles, real, legitimate championships. And it still wasn't enough to save the quote. Because the prediction wasn't 2, it wasn't 3, it was 7. Miami reached 4 consecutive finals and won 2 of them. Then the Big 3 disbanded. LeBron left after 4 seasons. The era was over. Even members of the Heat organization later admitted the celebration had created expectations they could never realistically meet. What makes this quote unforgettable is the distance between the promise and the reality. 2 championships for a team built around 3 Hall of Famers with a prediction of 7 will always feel like a miss. The Heat were genuinely great. They won back-to-back titles. LeBron played in 4 straight finals. But the number he said out loud that night in Miami set a bar so high that even historic success looked like a shortfall. The gap between not 6, not 7, and 2 actual championships turned it into one of the most replayed predictions in NBA history. Series over. After the Celtics defeated the Bucks in Game 1 of the 2019 second-round playoffs by a score of 112-90, Paul Pierce appeared on ESPN and declared, "It's over. I think it's over." Boston had looked dominant. Kyrie Irving was coming off an all-NBA caliber season. The Celtics had reached the Eastern Conference Finals the year before. Pierce's confidence made a certain kind of sense in the moment. Then Milwaukee won Game 2. Then Milwaukee won Game 3 in Boston. Then Game 4 in Boston. Then Game 5 in Milwaukee. the Bucks won 4 consecutive games and eliminated Boston in 5, 4 straight wins. After Pierce told the world it was finished, the numbers behind the collapse were brutal. Milwaukee outscored Boston by 55 points across those final 4 games. Giannis Antetokounmpo averaged more than 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists for the series. Kyrie Irving shot just 35.6% from the field in the series. Over the final 4 games, that number dropped below 31%. Boston's entire season unraveled within days of the declaration. The quote became so culturally sticky that fans started treating it like a curse. Even years later, whenever a team wins Game 1 of a playoff series, someone in the comments brings up Paul Pierce saying the series was over. That's how deep it cut. What makes it age especially badly is that Pierce didn't say Boston would probably win or that momentum was shifting. He declared the series done, 1 game in. With 3 fully healthy, motivated Giannis Antetokounmpo led Bucks games remaining. Milwaukee responded by winning 4 straight and advancing comfortably. The statement didn't just age badly, it practically wrote Milwaukee's motivational bulletin board for the rest of the series. Sprewell rejection. In October of 2004, the Minnesota Timberwolves offered Latrell Sprewell a 3-year contract extension worth $21 million. Sprewell turned it down and became famous worldwide for publicly saying, "I have a family to feed." At the time, he was 34 years old and had already earned tens of millions during his NBA career. Minnesota had just reached the Western Conference Finals. He was playing alongside Kevin Garnett and Sam Cassell on a team that genuinely believed it was a championship contender. The extension would have paid approximately $7 million per year. He said no, expecting a bigger offer somewhere else. That offer never came. His production dropped significantly during the 2004 to 2005 season. Minnesota missed the playoffs. No team stepped up with a larger deal. The Timberwolves didn't budge, and then the 2004 to 2005 season ended. Sprewell never played another NBA game. The extension he rejected was the final major contract offer of his professional career. He went from turning down $21 million to never receiving another NBA paycheck. The long-term consequences were even harder. Reports later surfaced of foreclosures, lawsuits, the loss of property, and the loss of a yacht, all despite having earned nearly $100 million across his playing career. The financial decline was severe and widely covered. What makes this moment age so horribly is the simple arithmetic. He needed the money to feed his family. That's literally what he said. And then he walked away from $21 million and never earned another dollar in the NBA. The quote wasn't bold. It wasn't strategic. It was one of the most costly financial decisions in professional sports history, and it played out almost immediately after he made it. Bagley over Luka. In the 2018 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings held the 2nd overall pick. DeAndre Ayton had already gone first to Phoenix. Luka was still on the board. Sacramento selected Marvin Bagley instead. Dallas took Luka 1 pick later. At the time of the draft, Luka had already won EuroLeague Most Valuable Player. He had already won EuroLeague Final Four. Most Valuable Player. He had already led Real Madrid to a EuroLeague champion. He was 19 years old and considered one of the most accomplished international prospects ever to enter the NBA draft. Many scouts saw him as a generational talent. Sacramento believed Bagley fit better alongside De'Aaron Fox and prioritized his athletic profile and perceived roster fit. It was the wrong call. Luka won Rookie of the Year in his first season. He earned multiple first-team All-NBA select. He made multiple Western Conference Finals appearances. He reached the NBA Finals. He won multiple scoring titles. He became one of the fastest players in league history to reach major statistical milestones and developed into a perennial Most Valuable Player candidate. Bagley struggled with injuries, lost his starting role, was traded by Sacramento, and played for multiple franchises without ever making an All-Star team or an All-NBA team. He never approached Luka's level of production at any point in his career. Former Kings general manager Vlade Divac publicly acknowledged the decision was a mistake. What makes this particularly hard to defend is that Luka wasn't a project or a hidden gem. He was already dominating professional competition in Europe before the draft happened. Sacramento passed on a proven winner who was already elite and selected a prospect instead. Within a few seasons, Luka had become one of the best players on the planet. Bagley was fighting to stay in rotation. The pick is regularly listed among the biggest misses in modern draft history. Williams versus Butler. During Game 2 of the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals between the Celtics and the Heat, Boston had momentum and looked capable of tying the series. Late in the game, Grant Williams hit a 3-pointer and got into a verbal exchange with Jimmy Butler. Williams essentially told Butler he was there and ready for the moment. Butler heard it. Then Butler went to work. He repeatedly attacked Boston's defense, hunted favorable matchups, and scored on Williams multiple times. Miami pulled away and won the game. Butler openly admitted afterward that the exchange locked him in even further. He specifically said Williams talking to him sharpened his focus. The short-term results were bad enough for Boston, but the long-term results made it worse. The Celtics fell behind 0-3 in the series. They became the first team in NBA history to force a Game 7 after trailing 0-3, and then they still lost at home. Miami advanced to the NBA Finals. The image of Butler smiling during the exchange became one of the defining visuals of the entire 2023 postseason. The moment followed Grant Williams for years afterward, constantly referenced in discussions about trash talk and playoff pressure. What makes it age so badly is the timing and the outcome. Boston entered that series as the 57-win Eastern Conference powerhouse. They had the league's second-best net rating that season. They had championship aspirations built over years. And one of the most memorable moments from their entire postseason became a role player exchanging words with Jimmy Butler and then watching Butler dominate the rest of the game. The moment went from confidence to cautionary tale almost instantly. Poking one of the most motivated playoff performers of his generation in a tied series turned out to be a very bad idea. Gobert COVID. On March 9th, 2020, Rudy Gobert was finishing a press conference about growing concerns surrounding the coronavirus. As he walked away from the podium, he intentionally touched all the microphones and recording equipment in front of the reporters as a joke. A lot of people still didn't fully understand what was coming. That context matters. But the timing turned out to be catastrophic. Just days later, Gobert tested positive for the virus. On March 11th, the Utah Jazz and the Oklahoma City Thunder were moments away from tipping off when the game was postponed. Shortly after that, the NBA suspended its entire season. Gobert became the first major North American professional athlete publicly associated with testing positive during the pandemic. The microphone clip went viral instantly. Television networks replayed it constantly. News organizations around the world showed the footage in their coronavirus coverage. It became one of the defining images of the earliest weeks of the pandemic in the United States. The situation became more complicated when Gobert's teammate, Donovan Mitchell, also tested positive shortly afterward. Gobert later released a public apology, admitting he'd been careless and acknowledging he hadn't understood the seriousness of the situation. What makes this moment age so badly is the symbolic weight it carries. Within days of a joke about the virus, sports leagues around the world were shutting down. Countries were entering lockdowns. Millions of people had their lives completely disrupted. The NBA eventually spent hundreds of millions of dollars building the Orlando bubble just to finish the season. The contrast between the lighthearted gesture at that press conference and the scale of what followed makes it one of the starkest moments in recent sports history. It wasn't malicious, but the footage became permanently attached to the arrival of the pandemic in American professional sports. And that's something that's never going to fade. Rose Knicks. During the summer of 2016, the New York Knicks were one of the most talked about teams in basketball. They had acquired Derrick Rose from Chicago. They had signed Joakim Noah. They added Courtney Lee. Carmelo Anthony was still there. Kristaps Porzingis was coming off an impressive rookie season. And Rose publicly stated that people were putting the Knicks and the Warriors in the same super team conversation. That got everyone's attention immediately. The Warriors had just completed a 73-win season with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant. The Knicks hadn't made the playoffs since 2013, but Rose doubled down on the comments weeks later and refused to walk them back. Then the season happened. New York finished 31-51. They missed the playoffs. They finished 12th in the Eastern Conference. Rose played only 64 games. Joakim Noah's contract became one of the most criticized signings of that entire era. The team struggled defensively, lacked floor spacing, and dealt with chemistry issues throughout the year. Phil Jackson's front office took enormous criticism. The super team never won a playoff game because it never even reached the playoffs. Meanwhile, the actual contenders of that era were Golden State reaching the finals and Cleveland reaching the finals. New York was 20 games below 500. What makes this quote so brutal is the specific comparison Rose was drawing. He was putting a roster built around Carmelo Anthony, an aging Noah, a Rose who had dealt with multiple serious knee injuries, and a second-year Porzingis in the same sentence as the team that had just won 73 games, and then that roster went 31-51. Rose left after one season. Carmelo was eventually traded. The whole group was dismantled quickly. One of the most ambitious preseason predictions of the decade produced one of the most disappointing seasons. Kyrie claimed. On October 4th, 2018, Kyrie Irving walked out in front of a packed TD Garden crowd during a Celtics fan event, grabbed the microphone and told everyone, "If you guys will have me back, I plan on re-signing here." The crowd went wild, and understandably so. Irving was heading into the final year of his contract. Boston had just reached the Eastern Conference Finals the previous season without him due to injury. The roster featured Irving, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, Marcus Smart, and Terry Rozier. The Celtics had won 55 games the previous year. Irving then doubled down publicly, discussing building a legacy in Boston and even mentioning the possibility of having his number retired someday. The team posted the quote on social media. National media treated it as a near guarantee. Fans stopped worrying about free agency entirely. Then the season started unraveling. Boston finished 49-33, but chemistry became a major storyline throughout the year. By February, Irving was already walking back his certainty about returning. Then Milwaukee eliminated Boston in 5 games in the second round. Irving shot just 35.6% from the field in that series and under 31% over the final 4 games. After the season ended, he left. He signed with the Brooklyn Nets. The commitment lasted exactly 1 season, and the Celtics received nothing in return because he left in free agency. Celtics fans still boo him every time he returns to Boston. His departure remains one of the most controversial free agency exits in the franchise's history. The quote gets reposted constantly whenever discussions about player promises come up. The relationship became hostile enough that Irving and Boston fans exchanged gestures and comments during later playoff matchups. What made it land so hard was how definitive it sounded. This wasn't, "I'd like to stay." It was a public promise in an arena full of fans, and it lasted less than 9 months. 2012 Lakers. Before the 2012 to 2013 season, Sports Illustrated put Dwight Howard and Steve Nash on the cover with the headline, "Now this is going to be fun." The excitement was completely understandable. During that summer, the Lakers had acquired Nash and Howard to pair with Kobe Bryant and Paul Gasol. Multiple analysts called it a super team. Some predicted a run at 70 wins. Las Vegas installed them among the title favorites. On paper, the roster looked almost unfair. Then reality arrived immediately. The Lakers started 1-4. Head coach Mike Brown was fired after only 5 games. Phil Jackson was widely expected to replace him. Instead, the Lakers hired Mike D'Antoni, which created immediate controversy among fans and players. Then the injuries started. Nash suffered a leg injury early, missed significant time, never looked physically like the same player, and played only 50 games all season. Howard entered the year still recovering from back surgery, was clearly not at his Orlando peak, and reportedly clashed with both Kobe and D'Antoni throughout the year. The team finished 45-37 and finished 7th in the Western Conference. Then Kobe tore his Achilles tendon late in the season while carrying an enormous workload. Many people view that injury as the moment that ended the true superstar phase of his career. In the playoffs, the Lakers were swept 4-0 by the San Antonio Spurs. They won 0 playoff games. Within roughly a year, Howard left for Houston. Nash's career collapsed because of injuries, and the franchise entered one of the worst stretches in its history. The cover that promised dominance instead marked the beginning of a long decline. 1 fired coach, 0 playoff wins, a franchise cornerstone injury, and a supposed dynasty that never reached a conference final. One of the most hyped rosters in league history became one of its biggest disappointments. Heat versus Dirk. During the 2011 NBA Finals, Dirk Nowitzki was battling flu like symptoms ahead of Game 5. Before the game, cameras caught LeBron James and D. Wade walking through the arena hallway, pretending to cough and making jokes directly aimed at Dirk's illness. The footage spread everywhere almost immediately. At the time, Miami looked like the clear favorite. LeBron was the 2-time reigning most valuable player. Wade was still one of the best players in basketball. Chris Bosh was an all-NBA caliber star. The Heat had already beaten the Celtics, Bulls, and 76ers on their finals run. Most people expected Miami to win comfortably. Then the series finished in the worst possible way for the Heat. Dallas won Game 5. Dallas won Game 6. Dallas won the championship. The Mavericks captured the first title in franchise history. Dirk won Finals Most Valuable Player. He averaged 26 points, and nearly 10 rebounds per game during the final. Meanwhile, LeBron's series is still considered the worst stretch of his prime career. He averaged only 17.8 points per game. His scoring dropped more than 8 points from his regular season average. He scored 8 points in Game 4, the fewest he had ever scored in a playoff game, while playing at least 40 minutes. The Heat lost, while being favorites. Dirk, the player being mocked, won everything. LeBron, doing the mocking, had the worst finals performance of his prime. Years later, even Wade admitted the incident was childish and something he regretted. What makes it age even harder is the context of what Dallas actually accomplished that year. They beat the defending champion Lakers. They beat a Thunder team with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. They beat the Big Three Heat. The coffin clip became a permanent part of that championship story, and it's never going away. Mocked Luka. After Phoenix won Game 5 of the 2022 Western Conference semifinals to take a 3-2 series lead over Dallas, Devin Booker was caught on camera mocking Luka's famous Luka Special. Complaint to referees. The Luka Special refers to Luka telling officials about aggressive defensive trapping. Booker laughed and sarcastically repeated the phrase on the bench. The clip went viral within hours. At the time, Phoenix was in a genuinely strong position. The Suns had won 64 games that season, the best record in the NBA. They were defending Western Conference champion. Chris Paul had just finished another All-NBA season. Booker had finished 4th in most valuable player voting. Most analysts expected Phoenix to close it out. Then Dallas won Game 6 by 27 points. Then came Game 7. Luka scored 35 points. Spencer Dinwiddie scored 30 points. Dallas won 123-90. At halftime, Dallas led 57-27. Luka personally had 27 points. Phoenix's entire roster also had 27 points at halftime. Luka alone matched their entire team's output in 2 quarters. The Suns trailed by as many as 46 points. The home crowd was leaving before the game ended. 1 year earlier, Phoenix had reached the NBA Finals. Now they just suffered arguably the worst home elimination loss in franchise history. The Booker clip came back instantly. Fans replayed it everywhere. Memes covered every corner of social media. Media outlets pointed out that Phoenix had ended up experiencing a very different kind of Luka Special than the one Booker was joking about. The timing is what makes it so memorable. The Suns mocked Luka while holding a series lead. Within days, they were eliminated. Luka was becoming one of the league's biggest superstars, and Phoenix was watching a historic collapse define their entire season. Brian Scalabrine, drafted in the 2nd round back in 2001, Scal bounced around for 11 seasons and made stops in New Jersey, Boston, and Chicago. He only averaged 3 points a game and barely 2 rebounds, logging just over 13 minutes per outing. But somehow, he managed to carve out a career longer than most. He won a ring with Boston in 2008 and showed up in back-to-back finals with New Jersey. The numbers? Not impressive. His highest season average was just over 6 points, but fans latched onto him anyway. They gave him nicknames, watched him win a one-on-one challenge against viewers, and turned him into a bit of a cult icon. Even after he retired, he stayed close to the game as a commentator and assistant coach. In 2025, he was even praised for spotting Cooper Flagg's talent early. Scal may not have lit up the scoreboard, but he outlasted expectations, kept a job in the league, and turned limited production into lasting relevance. His defense? Serviceable. His offense? Forgettable. But his legacy? Way more entertaining than his stat sheet ever was. Killian Hayes, taken 7th overall in 2020, Hayes arrived in Detroit with big expectations. But after a hip injury early in his rookie year, things just never quite clicked. His stats across 4 seasons hovered around 8 points, 5 assists, and under 3 boards per game. And those shooting numbers? Rough. He posted some of the worst efficiency metrics in the league, especially in his first 3 years. He never cleared 42.6% in effective field goal percentage. And in 2023, he had the lowest field goal percentage in the entire NBA. Still, there were flashes. His passing vision and left-hand playmaking stood out. In the G League, he looked sharper, averaging over 20 points and 8 assists, while finally hitting threes at over 40%. He even earned a short NBA stint with Brooklyn in 2025. But between inconsistent shooting and limited bursts, his place in the league never felt secure, even with those brief improvements showing up late. Anthony Bennett, picked 1st overall in 2013, Bennett came into the league with high hopes and left with one of the most talked about draft bust labels ever. He didn't score a single field goal until his 5th NBA game and finished his rookie year averaging just over 4 points on 35% shooting. After that, things didn't improve much. He bounced from Cleveland to Minnesota, then Toronto, and finally Brooklyn. Across 151 games, he put up career averages of 4.4 points and 3.1 rebounds. He became the first #1 pick ever sent to the NBA Development League. Overseas, same story. He barely cracked 1 point per game in the EuroLeague and got waived more times than he started. He's played in Israel, Taiwan, and most recently, Bahrain. Drafted ahead of Giannis, Bennett's career is one of the clearest examples of potential gone sideways. His defense, not memorable. His offense, even less. Sim Bhullar, standing at 7'5", Bhullar became the first player of Indian descent to appear in an NBA game, but his time on the court was almost non-existent. He played just 3 games for the Sacramento Kings, logging under 3 total minutes. That's right, less than 1 minute per game, with career averages under 1 point, 1 assist, and 1 rebound. But before that, he had a solid college run at New Mexico State, blocking shots and winning awards in the WAC. In the G League, he recorded a triple-double with blocks, and in Taiwan, he dominated, putting up video game numbers like 50 points and 35 rebounds in a single game. So while his NBA impact was microscopic, he thrived elsewhere. His defense showed up overseas, but his mobility and stamina never matched NBA speed. Technically, one of the least effective players in league history, sure, but globally, he found ways to leave a much bigger footprint. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Luke Walton, drafted 32nd overall. In 2003, Walton spent most of his playing career with the Lakers before wrapping it up in Cleveland. He played in 564 games, started 138, and averaged just under 5 points with a little under 3 rebounds and 2 assists per game. His best season came in 2007 when he posted over 11 points per game while starting 60 times. Though his numbers were modest, he won 2 titles with Los Angeles in 2009 and 2010. After retiring, Walton joined the Warriors as an assistant and filled in as interim head coach during their historic 24-game win streak. He later became head coach of the Lakers and Kings, though neither stint produced playoff success. His coaching record, a combined 166 wins and 241 losses. Now, he's an assistant in Detroit. Also worth noting, he's part of the first father-son duo to both win multiple NBA championships, joining his Hall of Fame dad, Bill Walton. Dejana Diop, drafted 8th overall. In 2001, Diop came into the league straight out of high school with raw athleticism and elite size. Over 12 seasons, he played in 601 games, but only started 93, averaging just 2 points and under 4 rebounds per game. Offensively, his production was nearly non-existent. He shot under 47% from the free throw line and didn't average even half an assist. But his defense was his calling card. At his peak, he ranked 4th in blocks per 48 minutes league-wide and helped Dallas make a deep playoff run in 2006. He averaged over 1 block per game across his career and once pulled down 16 boards in a single game. After retiring, Diop found his groove in coaching, working with the Jazz and Rockets before becoming head coach of the Westchester Knicks. He's now won back-to-back G League Winter Showcase titles, proving there's more to basketball legacy than just stat lines. Hashim Thabit, picked 2nd overall in 2009, Thabit entered the league as a 7'3" shot blocking machine out of UConn. But right away, things went sideways. He averaged just over 3 points and 3 rebounds in his rookie season and was sent to the D-League before the year even ended, the highest drafted player ever to get demoted at the time. Over 5 NBA seasons, he played in 224 games, starting just 20, with career averages of 2.2 points and under 3 boards in about 10 minutes per game. He bounced from Memphis to Houston, Portland, and Oklahoma City, never finding a consistent role. Still, he didn't quit. He kept playing in the G League and overseas, in Japan, Taiwan, and Tanzania, where he won awards, led leagues in rebounding, and captured titles. His defense overseas turned dominant, but his NBA career remains one of the clearest examples of massive expectations that never turned into production on the biggest stage. Sun Yu, drafted 40th overall in 2007, Sun finally joined the Lakers a year later, but barely saw the floor. He played in just 10 games, averaged under 3 minutes, and scored a total of 6 points. That's not per game, that's 6 points total. He never hit a 3 or free throw in the NBA and shot just 27% from the field. A bout with mononucleosis delayed his debut, and after getting waived in 2009, he never played in another NBA game. Still, he technically won a ring in 2009, making him the first ethnic Chinese player with an NBA title. Back in China, his career took off. He helped the Beijing Ducks win 2 CBA championships, returned to the All-Star game with the Royal Fighters, and put up steady numbers until retiring in 2021. So while his NBA impact was nearly non-existent, his defense, playmaking, success in China gave him a much stronger career arc overall. Jan Vesely. Drafted 6th overall in 2011, Vesely was billed as an explosive, athletic forward with sky-high potential. But across 3 NBA seasons, he never found rhythm. He played in 162 games and averaged just 3.6 points and 3.5 rebounds per game. His free throw shooting was historically bad, just 40.8%. Even with solid field goal efficiency, he couldn't stay on the floor, bouncing between Washington and Denver before heading back to Europe in 2014. That's where things changed. He became a dominant force with Fenerbahce, winning the EuroLeague title, grabbing MVP honors, and stacking Turkish League championships. Later, he signed with Barcelona, continuing his elite run before a knee injury sidelined him in early 2025. While his NBA stint fizzled out, his defense, mobility, and rebounding turned him into a EuroLeague star. What looked like a bust turned into one of the strongest international rebounds in recent memory. Frank Ntilikina, drafted 8th overall in 2017. Ntilikina came in as a long, defensive-minded guard with international hype and a 7-foot wingspan. But over 6 seasons and 321 games, he averaged just 4.8 points on 36.9% shooting. His three-point percentage never broke 33% consistently, and he never averaged more than 6.3 points per season. He bounced from the Knicks to the Mavericks, and briefly to the Hornets, where he played just 5 games before getting waived. In playoff action, he barely saw minutes and didn't produce. Though praised for his defense early, he never developed as a playmaker, averaging just over 2 assists per game. His offensive efficiency tanked in his final NBA seasons. After leaving the league, he joined Partizan in 2024 and improved his shooting across the board while helping them win championships in both the ABA League and Serbian League. So yes, his NBA run was statistically disappointing, but his recent turnaround in Europe keeps the story from being a total collapse. Cristiano Felicio. Undrafted out of Brazil, Felicio signed with the Chicago Bulls in 2015 and went on to play 252 NBA games, starting 20 of them. He averaged 4.3 points and 3.9 rebounds in just over 14 minutes per game. His best season came in 2018, putting up 5.6 points with a career-high 17 points against New York and 16 rebounds versus Orlando. He shot 57% from the field, but didn't attempt a single three across his entire NBA career. His free throw percentage sat at 67%. Though he had moments off the bench, he never became a consistent presence. After leaving the NBA in 2021, he moved to Germany, then Spain, and currently plays in Japan. He also played for Brazil in the Olympics and World Cup, picking up medals and contributing to multiple national squads. His defense showed up more in international play, but in the NBA, he was mostly remembered as a low-impact big with limited range and rotation value. Adam Morrison, picked 3rd overall. In 2006, Morrison entered the NBA as a scoring machine, fresh off, leading the nation in points at Gonzaga. His rookie season with Charlotte showed flashes. He averaged nearly 12 points per game, but shot just 37% from the field. Then came the ACL tear. He missed all of the next season, and when he returned, the numbers fell off a cliff. Over his final 2 years, split between Charlotte and the Lakers, he never averaged more than 4 points a game. He finished his NBA career with just 7.5 points per game on 37% shooting across 161 games. Despite barely playing, he did win 2 titles with the Lakers. After the NBA, he played briefly overseas, then returned to Gonzaga as a student assistant and later a commentator. His defense and advanced metrics almost non-existent, but off the court, he found purpose, using his platform to support diabetes awareness and building a solid media presence tied to his college legacy. Yi Jianlian, drafted 6th overall in 2007. Yi was hyped as the next Chinese superstar after Yao Ming, but over 5 NBA seasons, he never found consistent footing. He played in 272 games, averaging just under 8 points and 5 rebounds per game. His best year came with the Nets in 2010, where he posted 12 points and 7 boards. But overall, he shot 40% from the field and 33% from deep. He struggled with physicality and never developed into a reliable two-way threat. After leaving the league, he returned to the Chinese Basketball Association and became a dominant force, winning 6 championships, 5 MVPs, and making 12 All-Star appearances. Internationally, he represented China in 4 Olympics and led the national team in multiple FIBA events. His defense and leadership anchored China's roster for over a decade. While his NBA run was considered a letdown by draft standards, his career in China turned him into one of the greatest CBA players of all time. Kwame Brown, drafted straight out of high school as the #1 pick in 2001, the expectations were massive, but over 12 seasons and 7 teams, things never quite took off. Across over 600 games, Brown averaged just 6.6 points and 5.5 rebounds per game. Not disastrous, but way below what you'd expect from a top pick. His best season came early, with nearly 11 points and over 7 rebounds per game. After that, nothing really clicked. His time with the Lakers is mostly remembered for being part of the trade that brought Paul Gasol to Los Angeles, a move that ended up helping Kobe Bryant win back-to-back titles. In the playoffs, Brown actually played a bit better, averaging 8.7 points, but it didn't shift the narrative. Later, he resurfaced in the Big Three League and even challenged the media's portrayal of his career. Sure, he didn't live up to the hype, but he stuck around longer than many. No all-star appearances, no big accolades, just a steady, underwhelming presence that still echoes in debates about top draft busts. Bryant Reeves, drafted 6th overall by the Vancouver Grizzlies in 1995, Reeves was their very first pick and quickly became the face of the expansion team. In 6 seasons, he averaged 12.5 points and 6.9 rebounds, with his best year coming in 1998 when he posted over 16 points per game. That same year, he signed a massive contract extension worth over $61 million. But after that, the decline came fast. Chronic back pain and weight issues seriously cut into his effectiveness. By 2002, without playing a single game in Memphis, he retired. Still, he finished as the franchise leader in games played. After leaving the league, he vanished from the spotlight and returned to Oklahoma, where he now lives on a cattle ranch and coaches his sons. He even became the subject of a documentary called Finding Big Country. His story is a rare one: early promise, quick decline, and total peace afterward. Menka Batir. Undrafted in 2001, he still carved out a spot with the Denver Nuggets, becoming the first Chinese player to ever start an NBA game. Across just 46 games, Batir averaged 3.4 points and 2.5 rebounds while shooting under 40%. He also spent time with the Spurs, earning a championship ring in 2003, then briefly played for the Raptors. His NBA minutes were limited and his numbers stayed modest, but once he returned to China, he dominated. In the Chinese Basketball Association, he won 3 MVP awards, a championship in 2014, and led multiple teams to the final. He also played in 3 Olympics for Team China and stood alongside Yao Ming and Wang Jiji on the global stage. His jersey was retired by the Beijing Ducks, and he even made a few film cameos. His NBA run may have been underwhelming, but his career meant a lot more back home and to international basketball history. Sam Bowie, drafted 2nd overall in 1984, right before Michael Jordan, his name still echoes through every bad draft decision debate. But Bowie wasn't just a footnote. He came out of Kentucky with strong numbers and high expectations. In his early NBA years with Portland, he showed potential, averaging close to 12 points and over 8 rebounds per game. The problem? His legs. Stress fractures, surgeries, and constant setbacks made it impossible to stay healthy. He ended up playing 511 games over 10 seasons, with career averages of 10.9 points and 7.5 rebounds. When he got to New Jersey, he actually played well, even averaging 15 points and 10 rebounds at his peak. But injuries never fully let go. With the Lakers, his numbers dropped, and by 1995, he was done. Despite the Jordan shadow, Bowie still had solid production when healthy. And after retiring, he switched to horse racing, finding success far away from the court. Michael Olowokandi, picked 1st overall in 1998, his rise to the NBA started unusually. He only touched a basketball at 17. After walking on at the University of the Pacific, he turned heads with a dominant senior season, averaging over 22 points and 11 rebounds. That led the Clippers to make him their top pick. But in the NBA, he never came close to matching the hype. Across 500 games, he averaged just 8.3 points and 6.8 rebounds while shooting 43% from the field. His best season came in 2002 with the Clippers, putting up just over 11 points and nearly 9 boards. Chronic knee problems and inconsistency dragged him down, especially after joining the Timberwolves. In 15 playoff games, his numbers dropped even further. Despite his size and flashes of athleticism, his limited skill set and injuries left him labeled as a draft bust. A big man with big potential that never turned into production. Darko Milicic, taken 2nd overall in 2003, right after LeBron James, And before Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and D. Wade, Darko was expected to be a future star. Instead, he became a symbol of what could go wrong on draft night. Over 10 seasons and 6 teams, he averaged just 6 points and 4.2 rebounds per game. His best season came with Minnesota in 2011 when he put up nearly 9 points and blocked 2 shots a game, ranking 5th in the league in blocks. But that was the exception, not the rule. With Detroit, he barely played, scoring just 152 total points across 96 games. In the playoffs, his role was tiny, except for one stretch with Orlando, where he had a decent series. After retiring in 2013, he tried kickboxing, lost badly, and then pivoted to farming apples on a 125-acre orchard in Serbia. So yeah, he left the league as one of the most talked about draft busts. But at least the apples are thriving. Elliot Williams, drafted 22nd overall in 2010, his NBA career never quite gained traction, mostly thanks to a string of brutal injuries. He missed his entire rookie season with a knee injury, then played only 24 games the next year before dislocating his shoulder. Just when things looked promising, an Achilles tear knocked him out for another full season. Across 6 years and 5 teams, Williams played in 109 total games, averaging 4.9 points on 42% shooting. His best NBA stint came with Philadelphia in 2014, when he averaged 6 points per game in over 60 appearances. But outside the league, he thrived. In 2015, he led Santa Cruz to a D-League championship, won Finals MVP, and made back-to-back All-Star appearances. Overseas, he suited up for Panathinaikos and put up over 13 points per game in EuroLeague play. Despite the setbacks, Williams carved out a solid career outside the spotlight. Even if the NBA chapter stayed mostly unfinished, Cherokee Parks, drafted 12th overall in 1995 after winning a national title at Duke, Parks entered the league with solid college credentials. But over 9 NBA seasons with 7 teams, he averaged just 4.4 points and 3.6 rebounds across 472 games. His most productive year came with Minnesota in 1998, when he put up just over 7 points and 5 rebounds per game. Never a consistent starter, he bounced around as a journeyman big man with decent size but underwhelming impact. He shot 47% from the field, didn't stretch the floor, and rarely posted standout numbers. After retiring in 2004, he briefly returned in 2011 to play in France's 4th-tier league. Off the court, he found a second act working with the New Orleans Pelicans, and later joined the NBA's player development department. His NBA output was quiet, but his longevity and off-court impact kept him involved in the game long after the box scores stopped updating. Mark Madsen, drafted 29th overall in 2000, Madsen played 9 seasons in the NBA, suiting up for the Lakers and Timberwolves across 453 games. He averaged just 2.2 points and 2.6 rebounds per game, but stats were never the story. Known as Mad Dog for his high-energy style, he earned 2 championship rings with the Lakers and plenty of praise from teammates for his hustle. Shaq even said he got beat up by him in practice. His most productive year, just over 3 points and 3 rebounds per game. After retiring, Madsen made a seamless move into coaching. He started in the D-League, returned to Stanford as an assistant, and later joined the Lakers staff. In 2019, he became head coach at Utah Valley, winning 2 conference titles and Coach of the Year honors. In 2023, he took over at Cal and led them to a 10-win jump in his first season. As a player, he was all grit. As a coach, he's built something much bigger. Nikolos Tskitishvili, drafted 5th overall in 2002, he came into the league with major hype after helping Benetton Treviso win the Italian league title. But in the NBA, he never found his footing. Across 172 games with 4 different teams, he averaged just 2.9 points and 1.8 rebounds, while shooting a brutal 30% from the field. His highest scoring season, just under 4 points per game. Analysts widely rank him as one of the most disappointing lottery picks ever, with his name constantly brought up in worst draft picks debates. After stints with Denver, Golden State, Minnesota, and Phoenix, he was waived twice in preseason and quietly left the league in 2006. Overseas, though, he kept going, playing in Spain, Italy, Greece, Iran, Lebanon, and Japan. At one point, he even averaged nearly 18 points and 11 rebounds with Champville in Lebanon. His NBA story ended fast, but his global career showed resilience, even if that top 5 pick label never matched the on-court results. Jimmer Fredette, drafted 10th overall in 2011. His college legacy at BYU was electric. He led the nation in scoring and became National Player of the Year. But once he hit the NBA, the magic didn't follow. Over 6 seasons and 5 teams, Jimmer averaged just 6 points per game while struggling on defense and adapting to NBA pace. Despite a few flashes, like a 24-point night with Sacramento, he never earned a lasting role. After being waived, his career found new life in China. With the Shanghai Sharks, he averaged nearly 37 points per game and even dropped 75 in a single outing. He also had stints in Greece and dominated in 3v3 basketball, representing Team USA at the Olympics and earning medals in global tournaments. In April 2025, Jimmer retired, then took over as managing director of the USA 3v3 men's team just weeks later. His NBA numbers fell short, but his global impact and second act tell a much bigger story. LaRue Martin, drafted first overall in 1972 by the Portland Trail Blazers, Martin was taken ahead of Bob McAdoo and Julius Erving, 2 future Hall of Famers. At Loyola Chicago, he averaged over 18 points and 15 rebounds, but his NBA career never matched the hype. In 4 seasons, he played 271 games, never started once, and averaged just 5.3 points and 4.6 rebounds. He never played more than 15 minutes a game in any season. Often cited as one of the biggest #1 pick busts in league history, Martin's name regularly appears in comparisons to other draft disappointments, but the rest of his life flipped the script. After basketball, he earned a sociology degree, worked at Nike, and then climbed the ranks at UPS, eventually leading public affairs in Illinois. He served on nonprofit boards and remained active in the community. Martin rejected bitterness and embraced gratitude, focusing on family and building a successful career outside the game. His NBA numbers might disappoint, but his story doesn't end there. It just moved to a different kind of spot. Danny Ferry, drafted 2nd overall in 1989, Ferry refused to play for the Clippers and spent a year in Italy before joining the Cavaliers, where his NBA career never quite matched the hype. Across 13 seasons with Cleveland and San Antonio, he averaged 7 points and 2.8 rebounds per game. His best season came in 1996 when he put up 13.3 points, but that level of production didn't stick. Known more for steady outside shooting than star power, he quietly filled a bench role late in his career, winning a title with the Spurs in 2003. Despite solid shooting percentages, Ferry's name often lands on lists of underwhelming lottery picks. The trade that brought him to Cleveland, which sent Ron Harper away, still frustrates fans. After retiring, Ferry held executive roles with the Cavaliers and Hawks, and later advised the Pelicans and Spurs. On the court, expectations went unmet, but off it, he carved out a long basketball career in the front office, even if controversy shortened one of those stints. Brian Cardinal, drafted 44th overall in the 2000 NBA draft, Cardinal's pro career wasn't built on scoring headlines. It was built on grit. Nicknamed the custodian for his hustle and willingness to do the dirty work, he became the kind of player every locker room appreciated, even if fans barely noticed the box score. His best statistical year came with the Warriors in 2004, when he averaged nearly 10 points per game. Later, he became a reliable veteran with the Grizzlies and Timberwolves, and then capped his career with a championship in Dallas in 2011. Across 12 seasons, Cardinal averaged just 4.6 points and 2.3 rebounds per game, but he shot 37% from 3 and 86% from the line, proving he knew how to stay ready. He took charges, dove for loose balls, and embodied the grind. Brian Cardinal wasn't a star, but he was a pro's pro, and that effort earned him a ring and a decade-long NBA career. Keith Kloss, towering at 7 feet 3 inches. Kloss had all the physical tools you'd expect from a dominant rim protector. In college, he was a block machine, nearly 6 per game, and actually holds the highest average ever recorded in Division I. But once he hit the NBA with the Clippers, things went downhill fast. He barely saw the floor, and when he did, it was short bursts of flashes, mixed with major inconsistency. His numbers, just under 4 points and 3 rebounds a game, not great. And while he did set a franchise record for blocks per 48 minutes, that stat only mattered if he could stay on the court, which he rarely did. Off the court, things spiraled even harder. Alcohol and drug issues derailed his focus and made his short career even shorter. He's been open about it all since, turning his life around and recently stepping into a coaching role overseas. That part's great, but if we're talking NBA performance, the hype never turned into substance. Keith Kloss had the height, the timing, and the blocks, but never the full package when it mattered. Jonathan Bender. Coming out of high school, Bender was a 7-foot guard with sky-high expectations. He broke scoring records at the McDonald's All-American game and went 5th overall in the draft. But after being traded to the Pacers, things never quite clicked. His best season 7.4 points and 3.1 rebounds per game. Not bad, but not what you'd want from a top 5 pick. Then the injuries hit hard. Chronic knee issues wiped out most of his prime. With just 76 games played over 5 seasons, he gave it another shot with the Knicks, played 25 games, then retired for good. But here's where it gets interesting. Bender didn't just vanish. He turned his injury setbacks into something useful, creating a rehab device that's helped tons of people with knee and back pain. He also launched a foundation, helped rebuild after Hurricane Katrina, and now coaches in Houston. His playing career, disappointing. But what came after might be even more impressive. Michael Ruffin. Drafted 32nd overall in 1999, Ruffin was known more for effort than highlight reels. At Tulsa, he was a rebounding machine, but his NBA role was clear. Grab boards, play defense, and stay out of the way. Across 9 seasons and 6 teams, he averaged just 1.7 points and 3.9 rebounds per game. His best year, 2.6 points and 5.8 rebounds with the Bulls. Not exactly stat sheet domination. Then there was that moment. In 2007, he tried to run out the clock by launching the ball into the air, which directly led to a game-tying 3 and an eventual Wizards loss. Brutal. After the NBA, he took his talents overseas to Spain before returning to coach in the G League and eventually the NBA. Ruffin's playing career might have been forgettable for most fans, but he carved out a long run by doing the dirty work and kept pushing into coaching when it was over. Rafael Araujo, drafted 8th overall in 2004. Araujo came into the league with big numbers from BYU and even bigger expectations, but his time in the NBA, not so impressive. Across 3 seasons with the Raptors and Jazz, he averaged just 2.8 points and 2.8 rebounds in limited minutes. His shooting dipped below 41%, and he never really carved out a role beyond being a backup center. Toronto fans still cringe, thinking about who they could have drafted instead. Off the court, Araujo blamed his lack of development on team issues and coaching decisions. Once his NBA time ended, he went overseas, where he played in Russia and back home in Brazil. And yeah, that's where he shattered a glass backboard with a dunk, which probably got more attention than anything he did in the league. Araujo had the body and college resume, but the NBA results just never matched the hype. For a top 10 pick, that's hard to overlook. Jim McIlvaine, drafted 32nd overall in 1994. McIlvaine made his name in college with a ridiculous 400 blocked shots at Marquette. That was his thing, blocking shots. And it got him into the NBA, where he averaged just 2.7 points and 3.1 rebounds over 7 seasons. But then Seattle happened. In 1996, they handed him a 7-year deal worth over $33 million. Fans didn't love it. Neither did Sean Kemp, who wanted his own raise. McIlvaine's best year, just under 4 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 blocks a game. Solid defense, but that contract made the expectations way bigger than his production. After 2 seasons, he was shipped to New Jersey and eventually bought out. His name still comes up in conversations about the worst contracts in league history. He wasn't terrible defensively, but when you're paid like a star and play like a backup, that reputation sticks. Semaj Christian, drafted 55th overall in 2014. Christian never got a real shot to shine in the NBA. After dominating at Xavier, where he earned all Big East honors, he had a strong showing in the G League, 18 points and nearly 6 assists per game. Still, it took 2 more years before Oklahoma City gave him a chance. In 64 games during the 2016 season, he averaged just under 3 points and 2 assists in 15 minutes per night. His shooting numbers were rough, hitting under 35% from the field and just 19% from deep. That was it for his NBA stint, but his career didn't end there. Christian went global, hooping in China, Israel, France, Spain, Turkey, and Italy. He even grabbed all Eurocup and all Italian League honors. He's a prime example of a player who never found footing in the league, but carved out a serious career overseas. The numbers? Meh. But the journey? That's something. Mohamed Sane, taken 10th overall in 2006. Sane came into the league with a ridiculous wingspan and raw athleticism, but hardly any experience. His NBA career, just 47 games total, with averages of 2.2 points, 1.6 rebounds, and half a block per game in 5 minutes a night. For a lottery pick, that's barely a blip. Seattle and Oklahoma City gave him chances, but he spent more time in the G League than the big league. That's where he actually thrived. He was named co-defensive player of the year with 12 points, almost 9 boards, and solid block numbers. Overseas, he finally found rhythm. In France and Spain, he put up double-doubles, swatted shots, and even cracked national team rosters for Senegal. Injuries slowed him later, but he still managed a late career D-League return with Austin. Sané never delivered in the NBA, but he built a respectable pro career across the globe. Draft value? Missed. Career? Still real. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching. 266 teammates. Jeff Green's had more teammates than most players have practice jerseys. Over an 18-season career, he's played for 12 different franchises, stacking up a jaw-dropping 266 different teammates across the regular season and playoff. That's not just bouncing around. That's full-on basketball nomad status. And we're not talking about a list filled with no name. He shared locker rooms with some of the biggest names in the league's history. Kevin Durant, yep, back in the Seattle and early Oklahoma City days. Russell Westbrook, also there, tearing it up with Green during those early Thunder years. James Harden, of course, they connected again during Jeff's time in Houston. But it goes even deeper. Shaq was briefly his teammate. Yes, that Shaq. Green's career has intersected with legends from different eras, whether they were in their prime or winding things down. And being around those kinds of players means you're often on serious rosters, which creates even more turnover. Star-studded teams are constantly adjusting, and Green was always right in the mix. That's the wild part. His role wasn't always huge, but he kept finding his way onto meaningful teams, and that's how the number kept climbing. Add in playoff appearances, trades, new contracts, short stints, and suddenly the guys played with over 265 other professionals. 8 All-Stars on one roster. The 2021 to 2022 Lakers didn't just load up on talent, they stacked their roster with 8 former or current NBA All-Stars. That's 8 players, all on one roster, who'd been selected for the league's biggest midseason honor at some point in their careers. It started with LeBron James, who's got more All-Star appearances than some teams have playoff wins. Anthony Davis was right there too, another multiple-time All-Star anchoring the front court. Then there was Russell Westbrook, brought in with his explosive resume and MVP past. Add Carmelo Anthony, whose All-Star peak made him one of the league's most dangerous scorers for years. Dwight Howard had racked up multiple All-Star nods back when he was dominating the paint. DeAndre Jordan had his moment in the spotlight with the Clippers, and Isaiah Thomas had that unforgettable All-Star stretch with Boston. Rounding it out was Rajon Rondo, who'd already been to multiple All-Star games and brought championship-level experience. Not all of them were in peak form by that season, but they all wore the purple and gold during that year. Some came through trades, others through mid-season signing. Regardless of timing, they were all on the same roster, which makes this one of the most all-star loaded teams in league history. The significance? You just don't see that level of decorated talent sitting in one locker room very often. Roster limits usually make it impossible, but the Lakers pulled it off, at least on paper. 8 All-Star, 1 team, 1 season. That's a record worth remembering. 7 teams in one trade. On July 6th, 2025, the NBA approved a trade that rewrote the record books. 7 teams, all tied together in a single, massive deal. The Rockets, Suns, Hawks, Nets, Warriors, Timberwolves, and Lakers were all involved. And the headliner? Kevin Durant, who was sent from Phoenix to Houston. This deal moved more than just Durant. Houston also got Clint Capella in a sign and trade from Atlanta. Phoenix landed Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 draft pick, which turned into Kaman Maluak, plus second rounders and young pieces like Rasheer Fleming and Kobe Brea. Atlanta got David Roddy and a second-round pick swap. The Nets pulled in 2 second-round picks, and the Warriors took home draft rights to Alex Tuhey and Jamai Mashak. Minnesota got draft rights to Rocco Zikarsky, 2 future second-rounders, and cash. The Lakers came away with the rights to Adal Thiero and more cash. Every team touched the trade wire, whether it was veterans, draft picks, rookies, or future flexibility. Before this, the record for teams involved in one NBA trade was 6. This broke that cleanly. Beyond the team count, the volume was just wild. Players, rights, picks, extending all the way to 2032, and cash flying in multiple directions. What started as a basic Rocket-Sun swap ballooned into something way bigger. Layers of negotiations pulled in more teams and filled out the structure with depth pieces, cap moves, and future assets. It was complicated, historic, and completely official. 7 franchises moved pieces in a single deal, and the Kevin Durant saga hit another record-setting chapter in league history. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, 31 Hall of Famers in the finals. Over 10 NBA Finals appearances, LeBron James has faced a wild total of 31 Hall of Famers, or future Hall of Famer. That's the claim. And based on who he's gone up against, it's not hard to see how that number adds up. Start with the 2007 final. LeBron ran into a Spurs dynasty with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu, all Hall of Famers. Jump ahead to 2011, and there's Dirk and Jason Kidd with Dallas. Then in 2012, it was Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook with the Thunder. All of them future Hall of Famers, even if they hadn't hit their peak yet. Now look at that stretch from 2015 to 2018. Golden State had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Durant again. Those are 4 massive names, and all 4 will have Hall of Fame plaques eventually. By the time you stack that kind of elite talent across 10 final series, the number gets big fast. What makes this count so interesting is that it includes players already inducted and those clearly on their way. LeBron's finals matchups have been filled with legends from every direction: scorers, defenders, MVPs, and multi-ring winners. Every team he's faced had at least 1 or 2 names that'll live in NBA history books. This record isn't just about longevity. It shows how LeBron's finals runs repeatedly collided with some of the best talent the league had to offer. 31 Hall of Famers is more than a trivia answer. It's a reflection of just how stacked the competition really was. 13 teams. Ish Smith holds the NBA record for playing with the most different franchises in league history. 13. That's not just a suitcase packed once or twice. That's a full-time moving job. Over the span of his career, Smith went from undrafted in 2010 to being a champion in 2023, with a list of stops that reads like a league directory. He started with the Houston Rockets, then went on a tour of the league that included the Memphis Grizzlies, Golden State Warriors, Orlando Magic, Milwaukee Bucks, Phoenix Suns, Oklahoma City Thunder, Philadelphia 76ers, New Orleans Pelicans, Detroit Pistons, Washington Wizards, Charlotte Hornets, and finally, the Denver Nuggets. A few of those he joined more than once, like Philadelphia and Charlotte, but even with the repeats, the total distinct franchises hit 13, and he officially set the record when he suited up for Denver in 2022. That was the 13th team, and as it turned out, the one where he finally won an NBA title. His journey wasn't always about big minutes or headlines, but he was valuable enough that teams kept picking him up. Waivers, trades, short-term deals. However it happened, Smith kept finding his way onto rosters. That kind of career takes adaptability, persistence, and a very understanding real estate agent. 13 teams, 1 career. No one else has done it quite like that. Whether as a backup guard, a steady presence, or a veteran voice, Smith managed to be just what a team needed. 13 different times. And now, he's got a record no one's ever matched. 3 teams together, James Harden and Russell Westbrook, have been teammates not once, not twice, but 3 different times, across 3 completely different franchises. First, it all started in Oklahoma City, back when Harden was the 6th man and Westbrook was exploding into stardom. That Thunder squad made serious noise and helped launch both of their careers. Then they linked up again in Houston for the 2019 to 2020 season. This time, they weren't young guns anymore. They were both former MVPs, trying to make a deep playoff push together again, this time in red and white. And just when you thought the duo had split for good, they reunited once more, this time with the Los Angeles Clippers. That made it official. 3 franchises, same duo. But they're not the only ones. Taj Gibson and Derrick Rose also pulled the triple. Their first chapter was in Chicago, where Rose was the youngest MVP ever, and Gibson brought energy off the bench. They later reconnected in Minnesota in 2018, with both guys trying to spark something in a new setting, and they did it again in New York, suiting up for the Knicks in the 2022 season. Sharing 3 franchises isn't common, and doing it as longtime teammates makes it even more rare. For both duos, it shows how certain player bonds just keep coming back. Whether it's front office trust, coaching familiarity, or just natural chemistry, when the fit works, teams keep trying it. Harden and Westbrook, Rose and Gibson, 3 franchises each, same jerseys, different zip codes, 5 first-round picks. In the 2025 NBA draft, the Brooklyn Nets pulled off something no franchise had ever done before. They used 5 first-round picks, not traded them, not packaged them. They actually drafted 5 different players in the first round, setting a league record. The picks were number 8, 19, 22, 26, and 27. With those, they went heavy on guards and wings with a little size mixed in. At number 8, they took Igor Demin, a 6'9" international guard out of BYU, known for his vision and feel. At 19, they grabbed Nolan Traoré, another international prospect, this time from France, with plenty of upside and shot creation potential. At 22, it was Drake Powell from North Carolina, an athletic wing with versatility. Then Ben Saraf came off the board at 26, another guard with an international background. And finally, at 27, they selected Danny Wolf from Michigan, a big man with rebounding chops and size in the paint. This kind of draft haul doesn't happen often. Actually, it never happened until now. No team had ever walked away from one first round with 5 selections. It signals a clear rebuild. The Nets aren't trying to patch things up. They're starting fresh, betting on development, chemistry, and time. What makes it even more wild is that they kept all 5 picks. That's rare in a league where first rounders are usually trade chips. Brooklyn went all in on youth, and if even 2 or 3 of these guys pan out, the future gets a lot more interesting. 5 first rounders, 1 draft, 1 team. That's how you make history. 9 Hall of Famers on 1 team. The 1962-63 Boston Celtics didn't just win, they stockpiled legends. That season, the Celtics had 9 players on their roster who would go on to be inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. That's the most Hall of Famers on a single team in league history. At the center of it all was Bill Russell, anchoring the defense and dominating the boards. Bob Cousy, the floor general, was wrapping up his final season, but still directing traffic like few others. Sam Jones and Tom Heinsohn were filling it up as scoring threats, while K.C. Jones locked down the perimeter on defense. Then you had John Havlicek, just a rookie that year, already making waves off the bench. Frank Ramsey and Satch Sanders brought hustle, smarts, and veteran experience. And rounding it out was Clyde Lavalette, a skilled big man who added size and production behind Russell. Every one of those names eventually got their call to the Hall. Some were already stars, others were just beginning to build their legacy. Either way, they all shared the same locker room that season. This wasn't a stacked team in the way we talk about super teams now. It was something deeper, a combination of elite talent, incredible chemistry, and a coaching system that maximized each player's strength. The Celtics dominated the era, and this team shows why. 9 Hall of Famers, 1 roster, 1 unforgettable piece of NBA history. No team before or since has packed that much greatness into a single season. 6 number 1 picks. The Cleveland Cavaliers and Washington Wizards are tied for the most number 1 overall picks in NBA draft history. 6 each. That's the all-time record for any franchise, and the paths they took to get there are very different. Cleveland's picks lean modern. It started in 1971 with Austin Carr, then Brad Daugherty in 1986, who became a multiple-time All-Star. But the real fireworks came in 2003 when they drafted LeBron James. That pick alone transformed the franchise and eventually led to an NBA title in 2016. They weren't done. In 2011, they took Kyrie Irving, who played a huge role in that title run too. Then came 2013's pick, Anthony Bennett, which didn't go as planned, but still counts. And just a year later, they selected Andrew Wiggins number 1, before flipping him in a major trade. Washington's record stretches much further back. Their first top pick came in 1953 with Ray Felix, followed by Frank Selvey in 54. Back then, they were the Baltimore Bullets. In the early 60s, they had 3 more number 1s during their time as the Chicago Packers and Zephyrs. Walt Bellamy and Bill McGill were among them. Fast forward to the 2000s, and they took Kwame Brown in 2001 and John Wall in 2010, both under the Washington Wizards name. Cleveland's picks shaped title runs. Washington's picks came through multiple name changes and eras, but both franchises stand with 6 top selections, the most in NBA history, 31 head coaches. The Lakers and Knicks are tied for the most head coaches in NBA history, 31 each. That's 3 decades worth of clipboard carriers, strategy minds, and sideline shouters per franchise. For the Lakers, it started with John Kundla, who led the Minneapolis Lakers to multiple titles in the early days. Then came Bill Sharman in the 70s, introducing fresh training ideas and grabbing a championship. But the Showtime era made Pat Riley a legend. Fast-paced, no nonsense, and always in a suit that looked like it cost more than a bench player's contract. Then came Phil Jackson, the Zen master, stacking up 5 titles and the most coaching wins in Lakers history. Most recently, Frank Vogel delivered the 2020 championship in the bubble. The Knicks' coaching legacy starts with Red Holtzman, the coach behind both of New York's only titles in 1970 and 1973. Joe Lapchick set the tone in the early days. Pat Riley came over from the Lakers in the 90s, trying to bring some of that magic to Madison Square Garden. Lenny Wilkins and Larry Brown both had stints, both Hall of Famers, though results were mixed. And in recent years, Tom Thibodeau has helped revive the franchise with his gritty defensive system. It's fitting that both teams, historic and high profile, sit at the top of the coaching turnover list. Longevity, pressure, market expectations, they all contribute. Some coaches won titles, others just survived a few press conferences. But either way, 31 names have held the top job for each. 20,000 women. That's the number Wilt Chamberlain claimed in his 1991 autobiography, saying he had slept with 20,000 different women over the course of his life. The number didn't come from gossip or tabloids. It came straight from Wilt. He explained it in A View from Above, his own book. According to Wilt, he tracked his encounters using a day timer, a literal calendar, where he marked a check each time he was with a different woman. At one point, he said, he counted 23 check marks over 10 days. That's more than 2 new partners a day. He took that sample rate, cut it in half to be conservative, and then multiplied it by the number of days he'd been sexually active. The math gave him 20,000. The reaction? Let's just say it caused a stir. People questioned the claim's accuracy, but Wilt wasn't trying to run for office. He was talking about how important intimacy was in his life. He compared it to basketball, something he loved, something he pursued fully. He later even said that the deeper point wasn't about quantity at all. It was that one meaningful relationship might be more satisfying than all those numbers combined. Still, the claim stuck. It became part of Wilt's legend, right up there with scoring 100 points in a game. Whether you believe the number or not, it's one of the most jaw-dropping stats ever mentioned in a sports memoir. And it didn't come from the box score. 5 number 1 picks on one roster. The 1959-60 Minneapolis Lakers hold one of the oddest, but most impressive draft-related records in NBA history. They had 5 different number 1 overall draft picks on the same roster at the same time. That's more than any team before or since. It started with Baylor, who had just been taken number 1 overall in 1958 by the Lakers themselves. He wasn't just on the roster, he was their best player, already dominating with scoring and rebound. Then there was Hot Rod Hundley, the top pick in 1957, whose rights were acquired from the Cincinnati Royal. He played a key role in the Lakers' rotation that year. Frank Selvey, picked number 1 in 1954, joined the team during that same season. Ray Felix, the number 1 pick from 1953, was already there, adding depth in the paint. And finally, Chuck Scher, taken first in 1950, was also part of that year's roster. So yes, 5 number 1 picks, all in Lakers uniforms at once. The twist? That team didn't dominate. They finished the regular season with 25 wins and 50 losses, though they still made the playoff, and even pushed the Western Division Finals to 7 games. Still, the record stands. It's not about how many minutes they played or how many titles they won. It's about the sheer unmatched concentration of top draft pedigree. 5 number 1 picks on one team in one season. That's basketball trivia gold, and the Lakers own it. 10 father-son duos. LeBron James has played against 10 different pairs of NBA fathers and their sons. A stat so ridiculous, it feels made up, but it's not. It's a real-time legacy tracker built entirely on staying in the league longer than some players' entire family arc. It started with guys like Rick Brunson, who played in LeBron's early years. Fast forward, and now LeBron's guarding Rick's son, Jalen Brunson. Then there's Gary Payton, the glove, who LeBron faced in the early 2000s. Years later, he matched up with Gary Payton II. Same story for Gary Trent and Gary Trent Jr. Kenyon Martin gave LeBron plenty of playoff battles, and now KJ Martin is trying to guard him. Jabari Smith played in the NBA before his son, Jabari Smith Jr., was even born. Now Jr.'s trying to score on a guy who played against his dad. It keeps going. Adrian Griffin, now a coach, once played against LeBron. AJ Griffin, his son, is now in the league. Juwan Howard, Samaki Walker, Glenn Robinson, Dale Davis, they all had NBA careers that overlapped with LeBron's. And now their sons, Jet Howard, Jabari Walker, Glenn Robinson III, and Trace Jackson Davis, have too. This stat doesn't need explanation. It's not about points or rings. It's about time. LeBron didn't just outlast eras, he overlapped them. Fathers and sons, entire NBA lifespans, and he's still on the court. 10 family duos and counting. 9 teams coaches. Larry Brown holds the record for coaching the most different NBA franchises. 9. That's not 9 jobs total. That's 9 different teams that looked at a whiteboard, a whistle, and a clipboard and said, yep, give it to Larry. He started with the Denver Nuggets, then moved through the New Jersey Nets, San Antonio Spurs, and Los Angeles Clippers. That's 4 already, and he hadn't even reached his most iconic stops. The Indiana Pacers gave him a long stint. The Philadelphia 76ers made the finals under his leadership. Then came the Detroit Pistons, where he finally won his NBA title in 2004. After that, he coached the New York Knicks, and later, the Charlotte Bobcats. But it wasn't just quantity. Larry Brown's resume is quality too. He took 8 of those 9 teams to the playoffs, something no other NBA coach has ever done. Most can barely survive one job. Larry kept getting new ones and making them competitive. He's also the only coach to win both a national college championship and an NBA title. Kansas in 1988 and the Pistons in 2004. Hall of Famer, sideline nomad, and clipboard lifer, Larry Brown didn't just coach, he collected franchises, 9 different teams, one legacy of everywhere. 13 former All-Stars traded. During the 2004 NBA season, 13 different former All-Stars were traded, setting a record for the most in any single season. It wasn't just a couple of big names, it was a league-wide reshuffle of players who'd once been centerpieces. Start with the biggest move. Vince Carter got sent from Toronto to New Jersey in December. That deal also included Alonzo Mourning, another multi-time All-Star who was later bought out. Chris Webber, still a major name at the time, was moved from Sacramento to Philadelphia in a blockbuster trade. Gary Payton and Antoine Walker both changed teams that season too, part of complicated movement that began in the offseason and continued into mid-season deals. Then you've got guys like Baron Davis, traded from the Hornets to the Warriors. Dale Davis and Tom Gugliotta were both involved in trades as well. Steve Smith, another veteran All-Star, was moved before wrapping up his career. Same with Vin Baker, who had earlier All-Star years, but found himself part of trade action that season. Clifford Robinson and Glenn Robinson, both former All-Stars, also got moved during this stretch. And Jamal Mashburn was traded despite being injured, still counting as a former All-Star changing teams during the season. So when you stack it up, 13 former All-Stars, all traded in one season, it becomes a snapshot of the league in transition. Some guys were past their peaks, others still had something to give, but the sheer volume of former stars on the move made 2004 a record-setting year for player movement. 52 unique starting lineups. The 2024 to 2025 Philadelphia 76ers officially broke the NBA record for most different starting fives in a single season. 52. That's not a typo. 52 different combinations of 5 players started at least one game. The record-breaking lineup came against the Knicks, passing the previous mark of 51 set by the Grizzlies just the year before. How did this even happen? Injuries mostly. Joel Embiid missed major chunks of the season. Paul George was also sidelined often. Role players rotated in and out, and the team leaned heavily on short-term deals and call-ups. In total, around 21 players started at least once. Some lineups actually worked. Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, Kelly Oubre Jr., and Caleb Martin went 3-0 when used together, but others, not so much. The same core group with rookie Justin Edwards instead of Martin went 0-3. Then there were lineups that looked like they were pulled from a preseason scrimmage. One starting 5 featured Grimes, Lonnie Walker, Ricky Council, Justin Edwards, and Adam Bona. That was the record-setting lineup, number 52. Even some of the more stable combinations, like Embiid, Maxey, George, and Oubre, paired with either Eric Gordon or Gershon Yabusele, only stuck together for short bursts. The constant shuffle made it nearly impossible to build consistency. It wasn't just a stat, it was the season's identity. Injuries, experiments, desperation, all of it added up to 52 unique looks. No other team has ever mixed and matched this much, and now the Sixers own the record, traded twice to the same team. Tim Thomas holds the unusual distinction of being traded from the New York Knicks to the Chicago Bulls, twice during his NBA career. 2 separate deals, 4 years apart, both sending him from Madison Square Garden to the Windy City. The first deal came in October of 2005. The Knicks sent Tim Thomas and others to Chicago in the trade that brought Eddie Curry and Antonio Davis to New York. Thomas barely unpacked. He played only 3 games for the Bulls before being waived by March of the following year. Then came round 2. On February 19th, 2009, the Knicks did it again. This time, they sent Tim Thomas along with Jerome James and Anthony Robertson to the Bulls in exchange for Larry Hughes. That marked his second trade from the Knicks to the Bulls. Same route, same result, different year. It's rare for any player to be traded to the same team twice by the same franchise, but in Thomas's case, it became part of his basketball resume. 2 trades, same direction, same franchises involved. The Knicks called, the Bulls answered. Twice, 21 Canadians. Canada just keeps stacking talent, and now they've hit a number nobody else can touch outside the US. For the 2024 to 2025 NBA season, there are 21 Canadian players on opening night rosters. That's more than any other country not named the United States. And guess what? That's not new. It's actually the 11th straight year they've led all non-US nations in NBA representation. This isn't just a trend, it's a pattern. Every year, Canada's sending more and more players into the league, and now they're not just filling out rosters. These guys are starting, scoring, and leading teams deep into the playoffs. Canada's influence is real, and it's been building for over a decade now. You've got stars like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City, Jamal Murray in Denver, and that's just scratching the surface. R.J. Barrett and Kelly Olynyk are both in Toronto. Dillon Brooks is in Houston, and players like Corey Joseph, Zach Edey, Luguentz Dort, and Brandon Clark round out the group. The number that stands out, 125. That's how many international players are on NBA rosters this season, and out of that huge group, Canada owns 21 of them. The numbers say it all. Canada's not just showing up, they're taking over spots, locking down minutes, and pushing their way into the spotlight year after year. No other country has done it like this lately. 11 years in a row and counting. 21 All-Star selections. LeBron James now holds the top spot in one of the NBA's most iconic categories. With 21 All-Star selections, he's officially passed everyone to become the all-time leader in total appearances. No one else in league history has more, but it's not just the number, it's how he got there. These aren't just 21 random appearances sprinkled across a long career. They're 21 in a row. Since his rookie season, way back in 2003, LeBron's been picked every single year through the 2025 season. That's 21 straight seasons of being considered one of the league's best. And that kind of consistency is almost impossible. No other player has ever done that, not once in over 70 years of NBA history. Even though he was selected for the 2025 game, he ended up sitting it out due to a foot and ankle issue. That part doesn't take away from the record. It just shows how long he's been doing this and what it's taken physically to stay at that level. His streak is unmatched, not just in basketball, but across most major sports. 21 All-Star nods means LeBron's not just in the conversation, he's setting the bar. He's played alongside different generations, in different eras, against different stars. And through it all, he's kept getting that call. Year after year, coach after coach, fan vote after fan vote. No other player has been able to do it 21 times in a row. And at this point, it's hard to imagine anyone catching him. 578 missed games. That's how many the Memphis Grizzlies piled up during the 2024 season, setting a brand new NBA record for most games lost due to injury in a single year. Think about that. Almost 600 games gone, just like that. No team in league history has had a season more derailed by health problems. They didn't just shuffle a few lineups. They rolled out 51 different starting groups. That's more changes than some teams make in a decade. On top of that, they used 33 total players, which sounds more like an open tryout than a regular season. You'd need a full team photo just to get everyone in the frame. Morant played only 9 games. First came a 25-game suspension, then a brutal shoulder tear that ended his season. That's about 73 games gone. Desmond Bane missed 42 with ankle and back issues. Marcus Smart sat out 62, thanks to a string of injuries to his ankle and finger. And even Jaren Jackson, usually pretty sturdy, missed 16. This wasn't just bad luck. It was a full-on avalanche. Night after night, the Grizzlies were forced to patch together whatever lineup they could manage. And when you're constantly switching players in and out, there's no rhythm, no chemistry, and definitely no momentum. It was a season of constant adjustment, and most of it wasn't by choice. The final number? 578 games missed. That's not just a stat. It's the story of their entire year, written in tape, braces, and walking boots. 5 starters, 1 Player of the Month award. In January of 2015, the Atlanta Hawks pulled off something the league had never seen before. The entire starting 5, Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, DeMary Carroll, Paul Millsap, and Al Horford, were named co-winners of the Kia Eastern Conference Player of the Month. That's 5 players, 1 award, and 0 historical precedent. Before that month, the award had always gone to an individual, but what the Hawks did in January was so evenly spread out, so balanced, that the NBA recognized all 5 starters together. They went undefeated, finishing the month 17-0. Every single one of them averaged double figures in scoring, but none cracked 20 points per game. That kind of balance doesn't usually get headlines, but in this case, it earned history. Paul Millsap led the group with around 18.3 points per game. Horford followed with 17.1. Teague added 16.6 and also led in assists. Korver chipped in 13.4 while shooting close to 57% from deep. And DeMar Carroll wasn't far behind at about 12.3. What really stood out was how they did it. They didn't just win, they outscored opponents by nearly 12 points per game. That's total team dominance. No hero ball, no stat padding, just consistent production from everyone. The award wasn't symbolic, it was statistical. It was the first time 5 starters shared the monthly honor, and it hasn't happened again. The record isn't just about wins, it's about 5 players performing so well together that the league had no choice but to give them all the credit. Larry Bird, they called him the Hick from French Lick. But Larry Bird came into the league and rewrote what a forward could do. Over 13 seasons, Bird racked up nearly 22,000 points, almost 9,000 rebounds, and more than 5,000 assists. He shot close to 50% from the field and had 2 seasons where he hit the elusive 50-40-90 mark. That's rare territory. He wasn't the fastest guy on the floor, but his timing, vision, and court awareness made him lethal. And yeah, he talked a lot during games. He backed it up almost every time. Bird finished with 69 triple-doubles, 59 of those in the regular season. When he got one, Boston usually won. He made 12 All-Star teams, won 3 Most Valuable Player awards in a row, and picked up 2 Finals MVPs along the way. His defense was sneaky good too. He made the All-Defensive Second Team 3 times. After his playing days, he coached Indiana to the finals and even won Coach of the Year. Then he did the executive thing and won that award too. He's the only person in the league history to win all 3. He wasn't flashy, but he didn't have to be. He just knew how to win. Nikola Jokic. The guy was drafted 41st overall and somehow turned into 3-time MVP winner and a walking stat anomaly. He's played over 700 regular season games and racked up more than 16,000 points, 8,000 rebounds, and 5,000 assists. That's not normal center behavior. He's not just scoring and rebound. He's dishing out more dimes than a point guard with a clipboard. He even has a career assist to turnover ratio of nearly 2.5, which is wild considering how much he touches the ball. Now playoff numbers, even better. He's averaged over 27 points, 12 rebounds, and more than 7 assists across nearly 100 playoff games. The defense tries, but Jokic has made a habit of shrugging them off with smooth footwork and even smoother passing. His true shooting percentage for the 2025 season hit 66%, and his player efficiency rating is the best ever recorded. He's the first center ever to average a triple-double for a full season, and he's had over 30 triple-doubles in a single year. He even dropped a 61-point triple-double. He owns Denver's assist record and passed legends like Dikembe and English along the way. Jokic isn't just breaking records, he's rewriting what a center can be. Dirk Nowitzki. 21 seasons with one team is absurdly rare, but Dirk made it look routine in Dallas. He played over 1,500 games, stacked up more than 31,000 points, and basically lived at the mid-range. The one-legged fadeaway, that shot turned defenders into statues. He led the Mavericks in nearly every category imaginable. Games, rebounds, free throws, minutes. Take your pick. He probably owns it. Dirk wasn't a flashy passer or some lockdown defense guy, but his footwork and shooting touch kept him effective long after the athleticism faded. He's one of the best free throw shooters ever for a big man, career average around 89%. And in the 2011 finals, he hit over 93% from the line. That championship run, iconic. He took down a Miami super team and walked off with the trophy and the finals MVP. He was also named MVP in 2007, made 14 All-Star teams, and stayed in elite mid-range efficiency zones for years. Dirk held the 6th spot on the all-time scoring list at retirement and became the top scoring foreign-born player in league history. The league literally built him a statue, 7 feet tall, white bronze, and stuck right outside the arena. Deserved, by the way. If you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyway, Luka, 7 seasons in, and Luka's already done more than most players dream about. He's averaging over 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists for his career. And in 2024, he casually led the league in scoring at 33.9 points per game. That made him the first European player ever to take a scoring title. Then he dropped 73 points on Atlanta. That wasn't just a Mavericks record. It tied him for the 4th highest scoring night. In league history, he became one of the fastest players ever to reach 10,000 points, getting there in just 358 games. He's already had stretches of 6 straight triple-doubles with 30 or more points. That's not a typo. 6 in a row. He also dropped a 30-point, 10-rebound, double-double in his first finals game, something nobody had done since Tim Duncan in 1999. His assist rate hovers over 33%, and he's still pulling down rebounds like a forward. The guy's usage rate is massive, but his efficiency holds up with a true shooting percentage near 59. His on-off stats are debated, and his defense isn't perfect, but there's no denying Luka's already rewriting history. Kyle Korver, 17 seasons, over 11,000 points, and a jump shot so pure, it could have been bottled and sold at sporting goods stores. He shot nearly 43% from deep across over 5,700 attempts. That's not volume and accuracy, it's sorcery. He even holds the record for the highest single-season three-point percentage ever at 53.6. Not bad for a guy drafted 51st, then traded for cash and a copy machine. Korver led the league in three-point percentage 4 different times. No one else has done that. And he didn't just shoot threes. His true shooting percentage finished above 60% for his career, putting him up with elite finishers despite barely dribbling the ball. He also made an all-star team in 2015 thanks to a lights-out season with Atlanta, where he hit nearly half of his threes. He played for 6 different teams, but left shooting records behind like Breadcrumbs, Utah, Atlanta, Philly, you name it. He even once knocked down 49 straight free throws. His game wasn't flashy, but he changed spacing for entire offenses. Off screens, off movement, always ready to fire. Korver wasn't a superstar, but his efficiency and shooting gravity made him a nightmare to defend for nearly 2 decades. Steve Nash. He played over 1,200 games and dropped more than 10,000 assists without ever needing to dunk. His passing was so smooth, it looked animated. Nash averaged over 8 assists and shot 49% from the field, nearly 43% from deep, and a ridiculous 90.4% from the line. That's the best free throw mark in league history. He joined the 50-40-90 club not once, but 4 different times, more than anyone not named Perfection. His peak came during his MVP runs in the mid-2000s, when Phoenix basically invented speed basketball. Nash ran that offense like a surgeon with a fast-forward button. In 2010, he averaged 11 assists and posted an assist percentage over 50. That means more than half the baskets scored while he was on the floor came from his passes. Absurd. He was never known for defense, but his impact was all in the control. His turnover numbers stayed low, even with high usage. He also became a top 75 player in league history and saw his number retired in Phoenix. He wasn't overpowering, just unstoppable. With over 17,000 points, 10,000 assists, and timeless vision, Nash built a Hall of Fame legacy without ever needing to shout, pow. Over 18 seasons, he played more than 1,200 games and scored over 20,000 points. He also racked up more than 11,000 rebounds, nearly 4,000 assists, and over 1,900 blocks. That's not just longevity, it's range. Powell didn't just hang in the paint. He could shoot, pass, post, and protect the rim. He was one of the few bigs with the touch to hit nearly 37% from deep while still swatting shots like a true center. He was Rookie of the Year in 2002, a 6-time All-Star, and a 2-time champion with the Lakers. His work with Kobe led to back-to-back titles in 2009 and 2010. And when they retired his number 16 jersey in Los Angeles, it was one of those rare moments where nobody disagreed. Powell led Spain to gold at the 2006 FIBA World Championship, grabbed multiple Eurobasket MVPs, and earned several Olympic medals. He retired with over 550 double-doubles and is part of an elite club with at least 20,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 3,500 assists, and 1,500 blocks. He wasn't flashy, just consistently excellent for nearly 2 decades. John Stockton, 19 seasons with one team, and somehow he left with 2 records that might never be touched. More than 15,000 assists and over 3,260 steals. He didn't just lead the league, he ran laps around it. He played over 1,500 games and missed barely any. In 13 straight seasons, he only sat out 4 games. That's absurd durability, especially for a 6'1" guard. His career averages, over 10 assists, more than 2 steals, and 51% shooting. That's as a point guard, not a big. He led the league in assists for 9 straight years and once dropped 1,164 dimes in a single season. No one's come close since. He also shot nearly 38% from deep and over 82% from the line. So no, he wasn't just passing. He ran one of the deadliest pick and roll duos ever with Karl Malone, but Stockton was the engine. He had elite vision, timing, and control. And while he never won a title, he helped drag Utah to back-to-back finals in the late 90s. The dude was relentless, consistent, and nearly impossible to rattle. He didn't talk much, but his stat sheet never shut up. Kevin Love, a top 5 pick in 2008, traded before playing a game and then turned himself into a rebounding machine with a jump shot. In Minnesota, he averaged nearly 20 points and over 12 rebounds a game, including a season where he led the league in boards and won Most Improved Player. He even had a game with 31 points and 31 rebounds, something nobody had done since the 80s. Then came that historic 2013 season where he dropped over 2,000 points, pulled in 900 rebounds, and hit more than 100 threes. The only player to ever pull that off. By the time he left the Timberwolves, he was already stacking all-star appearances and shooting better than most guards. He won a title with Cleveland in 2016, playing a support role behind LeBron and Kyrie. That championship comeback against Golden State, Love was on the floor for it, locking in on defense when it mattered. Over his career, he's averaged over 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists. He's also the only player ever with over 1,000 made threes and double-digit rebounding averages. Add in 5 All-Star nods, Olympic gold, and off-court leadership around mental health, that's impact beyond basketball. J.J. Redick. He played 15 seasons in the league and carved out a career as one of the most consistent perimeter shooters of his era. He finished with over 10,000 points and shot more than 41% from deep on high volume. That's not just solid, that's elite. At one point with the Clippers, he had a 62-game streak with at least one made three. And in 2015, he shot a ridiculous 47.5% from beyond the arc. His role was never flashy. He wasn't breaking defenders down, but he was a nightmare to guard off ball. His movement, timing, and footwork around screens forced defenders to chase constantly, opening up space for teammates even when he didn't touch the ball. He shot nearly 89% from the line and had an effective field goal percentage over 52%. It's the type of shooting profile coaches drool over. After retiring, he made a smooth transition into media and eventually into coaching. In 2024, the Lakers handed him the clipboard despite no formal coaching experience. And in his first game as head coach, the Lakers walked away with a win. From sniper to sideline, Redick just keeps finding his shot. Bob Cousy. He played over 900 games, scored nearly 17,000 points, and dished out almost 7,000 assists before anyone had even coined the phrase point guard. Cousy led the league in assists for 8 straight seasons, won an MVP in 1957, and racked up 13 All-Star appearances. He also made 10 All-NBA first teams, basically owning the point guard spot for over a decade. He helped the Celtics win 6 championships during their early dynasty and finished his main career with a ring in a 1963. Then, out of nowhere, he came back years later to play 7 games for the Royals while coaching them, just because apparently. In the 50s and 60s, he was doing things that had never been seen. Behind the back passes, no looks, cross-court skips. They called him the Houdini of the hardwood for a reason. He also made noise off the court. Cousy was the first president of the NBA Players Union, pushing for rights and benefits when nobody else would. And when his teammate Chuck Cooper was denied a hotel room because of segregation, Cousy refused to stay behind. Legacy? He's one of only 4 players named to every single NBA anniversary team. That's not nostalgia, it's respect. Jerry West. Jerry was relentless. From college to the pros, he stacked up numbers like it was a hobby. At West Virginia, he was grabbing over 13 rebounds and dropping nearly 25 points per game. And that was before he even hit the NBA floor. Once he did, it was all Los Angeles Lakers, all the time. 14 seasons, over 25,000 points. That kind of scoring without a three-point line? Come on, he hit over 81% of his free throws and nearly 47% from the field. That kind of consistency just doesn't happen. The guy didn't miss an all-star game. 14 seasons, 14 appearances. And yeah, he only won 1 title, but he dragged his team to the finals 9 times. That says more than the ring count ever could. He even won finals MVP during a loss, the only player to ever do that. The man averaged over 29 points in the playoffs across his career. That's 3rd all time. After retiring, he didn't just vanish. He coached, then became one of the best executives ever. He built winners in Los Angeles, Memphis, Golden State, and the Clippers. They don't call him the logo for nothing. Jerry wasn't just great, he kept shaping the league long after he stopped playing. Mark Price, one of the purest shooters to ever run point. And he did it while standing 6 feet flat in a league built for trees. He started out at Georgia Tech, where he broke records and ran the offense like a veteran. By the time he hit the NBA, he didn't need hype. His jumper handled that for him. Price joined the Cavaliers after being traded from Dallas, and once he settled in, he became their engine. He averaged over 15 points and nearly 7 assists for his career, but it was how he did it that stood out. He barely missed from the line, over 90%, and drilled over 40% from deep. Only a few players ever hit the 50-40-90 mark in a season. He did it while still controlling tempo, splitting double teams, and burying runners. That move, splitting the trap on pick and rolls, Price helped make it a thing. He made 4 All-Star teams, won 2 3-point contests, and earned All-NBA first team honors in 1993. He also showed out in the playoffs, raising his averages when the pressure kicked in. After retiring, he went into coaching, even took a college head gig, and worked as a shooting coach. His number 25 hangs in Cleveland, right where it belongs. Bill Laimbeer. This guy wasn't trying to win popularity contests. He was trying to win rebounds. Over 1,000 regular season games, he racked up more than 13,000 points and over 10,000 boards. He averaged just under 13 points and close to 10 rebounds per game. Not flashy, but brutally consistent. He hit nearly 50% from the field and more than 83% from the line. And yes, he could hit from deep, which wasn't exactly normal for big men back then. He was a 4-time All-Star and helped Detroit win 2 championships during that bruising bad boys era. In 1986, he led the league in rebounding with more than 13 per game. That same season, he had 60 games with double-digit rebounds. Not subtle. He was physical, unapologetic, and didn't care what people thought. If opponents didn't like getting shoved, boxed, or elbowed, they were free to go home. After retiring, Laimbeer carved out a legacy in coaching. He led the Detroit Shock to 3 WNBA titles and was named Coach of the Year twice. He coached in New York and Las Vegas too. Love him or hate him, Laimbeer never blended in. He made sure every team he touched had a clear identity. Mike Miller, not a headline grabber, but the guy could flat out shoot. Over 17 seasons and more than 1,000 games, Miller averaged just over 10 points, 4 rebounds, and nearly 3 assists per game. But the real story was that buttery 3-point stroke. He shot over 40% from deep for his career. He could spot up, move without the ball, and hit big shots in the biggest moments. That was his thing. In his rookie season with Orlando, he played all 82 games and snagged Rookie of the Year. A few seasons later, he won 6th Man of the Year in Memphis, then dropped 45 points in a game against Golden State. He even went on a stretch where he hit at least 7 threes in 3 straight games. Not bad for a guy nicknamed Skinny. He won 2 rings with Miami, and in the 2012 finals, he knocked down 7 threes in the closeout game. Still a record for a finals reserve. Later, he played all 82 games again in Memphis, while hitting over 45% from deep. After retiring, he coached high school ball to a state title and joined Memphis as an assistant under Penny Hardaway. Quiet career, but full of impact. Bob Pettit, one of the first true scoring bigs, and he did it before analytics were a thing. Over 11 seasons and nearly 800 games, Pettit dropped more than 20,000 points and grabbed nearly 13,000 rebounds. That's over 26 points and 16 boards a game. Every season, no off years, no dips. He never averaged under 20 points or 12 rebounds. That's cartoon-level consistency. He was an 11-time All-Star, won 4 All-Star MVPs, made 10 All-NBA first teams, and took home 2 MVP awards. In 1958, he dropped 50 points in the title-clinching win over Boston. That remains one of the greatest finals performances ever. That year, he helped St. Louis win the franchise's only championship. Still, he led the league in scoring and rebounding twice, and once pulled down 27 boards in an All-Star game. In another game, he went for 57 points and 28 rebounds against Detroit. At 6'9", he could bang inside, get to the line, and shoot from mid-range, and he hit over 76% of his free throws. His era didn't track fancy metrics, but his impact was clear. Pettit was the prototype for what scoring forwards would become. Dominant, durable, and relentless. Rick Barry, a walking bucket with a temper and a free throw stroke that looked like a dare. Across 14 pro seasons in both the NBA and ABA, Barry dropped over 25,000 points and led the NCAA, ABA, and NBA in scoring at different times. That's not a fun fact, that's a statistical monopoly. In 1967, he put up 35.6 points per game in the NBA. In the ABA, he had seasons with 34 and 31.5. That's sustained chaos. He wasn't just scoring though. He averaged over 6 rebounds and 5 assists per game in his NBA career. His playoff averages went even higher, nearly 25 points per game across 74 games. And in the 1975 finals, he took over and led Golden State to a championship, winning finals MVP while dragging defenders around like furniture. He hit free throws, underhand, which everyone mocked, until he led the league multiple times and finished at 90% for his career. He once made 23 straight in a single ABA game. He also scored 50 or more 15 different times, throwing 8 All-Star selections, 5 All-NBA first-team nods, and a Hall of Fame plaque. And Barry's legacy shoots for itself. Mark Gasol. The guy was never flashy, but he played chess while everyone else was throwing elbows. He ended up becoming a Memphis legend. Over 890 games, he averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds, and over 3 assists per night. And he wasn't padding numbers. He controlled pace, anchored the defense, and hit mid-range jumpers with his feet practically glued to the floor. In 2013, he won Defensive Player of the Year, and it wasn't a popularity vote. He was the backbone of the grit and grind era. 2 years later, he hit career highs across the board and landed on the All-NBA first team. He even notched multiple triple-doubles, including an 18-10-10 game just to keep things interesting. Then came Toronto. In 2019, he helped the Raptors win their first title, making clutch reads, bodying up bigs, and dishing from the elbow like a center-sized point guard. Internationally, the guy's resume is stacked. Olympic silver, World Cup gold, Eurobasket dominance. After the NBA, he returned to Spain and led Girona, the club he founded, to the top division. He retired in 2024. Subtle, skilled, smart. Mark never needed the spotlight to leave a mark. Jeff Hornacek. He played over 1,000 games across 14 seasons, averaging about 14.5 points, 5 assists, and nearly 50% from the field. And he wasn't just efficient, he was precise. He hit over 40% from 3 and nearly 88% at the line. During his best stretch in Phoenix, he averaged over 20 points a night and made his only All-Star appearance. That year, he led the team in scoring. Not bad for a second-round pick who walked onto his college team at 145 pounds. He played for the Suns, Sixers, and Jazz, finishing his career as the glue guy next to Stockton and Malone. He won the three-point contest twice and even set a record with 8 straight threes in a game. He wasn't flashy, but he was dangerous. And yeah, that face pat before every free throw, that was him saying hi to his kids. After retiring, he coached the Suns and Knicks, and even won Coach of the Month in his first season. His number 14 jersey now hangs in Utah. Jeff was never loud, but his game always spoke clearly. Chris Mullin, one of the smoothest shooters of his generation and a staple of that wild, fast-paced Warriors era. He played 16 seasons, racking up over 18 points a game across almost 1,000 regular season appearances. He wasn't flashy, but his jumper was a problem. Nearly 51% from the field, almost 39% from deep, and over 86% at the line. The guy didn't waste possessions. He made 5 All-Star teams, 4 All-NBA squads, and helped turn the Warriors into an offensive circus during the Run TMC years. Alongside Mitch Richmond and Tim Hardaway, Mullin helped Golden State become must-watch basketball. His best run came in the early 90s, where he was putting up over 25 a game and still shooting efficiently. And in one of his best single performances, he dropped 47, with 15 made free throws and a triple-double to go with it. He also took home 2 Olympic golds, including as part of the Dream Team. After his playing days, he worked in the Warriors front office, then coached St. John's, where he'd been a star in college and still holds the all-time scoring record. Chris Mullin didn't talk much, didn't flex, he just kept knocking down jumpers like clockwork. Sabonis, he might not dunk over traffic or go viral on fast breaks, but he's built a resume on numbers, durability, and just flat-out production. Through more than 640 games, he's averaging over 16 points, 10 rebounds, and nearly 5 assists per game, and that's just the career line. In recent seasons, he's pushing 19 points, nearly 14 boards, and 6 dimes a night while shooting almost 60% from the floor. He's already had multiple seasons leading the league in rebounds, including a monster 25 campaign with over 13 per game. He dropped 23 points and 28 rebounds against Boston in January, then followed it up in April with a triple-double, 19, 15, and 10 just for fun. He's not just grabbing boards and flipping layups either. Sabonis is a high IQ big who runs offense from the elbow, picks apart defenses with passing, and fits right into modern offenses with his versatility. The guy shoots efficiently, plays both power forward and center, and almost never misses games. He's a 3-time All-Star, made 2 All-NBA teams, and signed a deal worth nearly $186 million to anchor Sacramento's front court. Not bad for someone carrying the weight of being Arvydas Sabonis' kid. Tom Chambers, one of those scorers who could quietly hang 40 on you before the third quarter ended. He played 16 NBA seasons, putting up over 20,000 points, which still ranks him among the league's all-time top 50 scorers. He averaged just over 18 points and 6 rebounds per game, and in his prime, he was a walking mismatch. Too quick for bigs, too long for wings. His best run came in Phoenix, where he averaged over 25 points a game across multiple seasons. In 1990, he exploded for 60 points in a game against Seattle, and that was after he'd already dropped 56 earlier that season. He made 4 All-Star teams and took home MVP honors in the 1987 All-Star game. Twice named to the All-NBA second team, Chambers was known for his high-arcing jumper, explosive dunks, and surprising footwork for his size. He helped the Suns reach the finals in 1993, and though they lost to Chicago, his role in getting them there was no footnote. His number 24 is retired by Phoenix, and he's in their Ring of Honor. Not bad for a guy whose one-handed dunk over Mark Jackson still lives rent-free in highlight. Reels, Jack Sikma, drafted 8th overall in the late 1970s. Sikma wasted no time showing he could rebound, score, and stretch the floor. He anchored the front court during Seattle's championship run, and that title still stands as their only one. He was selected to 7 All-Star teams and was the kind of center who didn't need to camp out in the paint to dominate. His signature move, a reverse pivot into a smooth step-back jumper from behind his head. Bigs didn't shoot like that back then. Once he landed in Milwaukee, he didn't just coast. He actually added a three-point shot and led the entire league in free throw percentage in the late 80s. Yes, a center led the league. He stayed consistent, finishing with over 17,000 points, more than 10,000 rebounds, and nearly 3,500 assists. His defense didn't fall off either. He led the league in defensive boards twice, and even snagged an all-defensive team nod. Post-retirement, he kept coaching, helping guys like Yao Ming. He taught footwork, spacing, and that famous shot. The league retired his number and inducted him into the Hall of Fame. That says it all. Peja Stojakovic. The man could shoot like his life depended on it. After tearing up leagues in Europe, he finally came over for the lockout season and joined Sacramento, where things got real. He started slow, but once he got comfortable, he was torching defenses. His size let him rise over smaller wings, but it was his release that really caused problems. Quick, high, and deadly. During his peak, he was putting up over 20 points per game and bearing threes like clockwork. In the early 2000s, he was right at the top in made threes and free throw percentage. He won back-to-back three-point contests and made 3 All-Star teams. His best season? Easily, when he dropped over 24 a game, led the league in free throws, and finished 4th in MVP voting. And then later, when people thought he was done, he joined Dallas and left with a ring. Even with injuries slowing him down, he kept a role as a knockdown shooter. At retirement, he had made 1,763s, which was 4th all-time. That's legacy stuff. The Kings retired his number, and he went straight into their front office. Not bad for a skinny Serbian kid with a jumper and no fear. David Lee, one of those guys who didn't make a lot of noise but quietly filled up the stat sheet. Drafted with the very last pick of the first round. Expectations were low, but he didn't care. He carved out a 12-year career by doing what a lot of bigs overlooked: hustling, rebounding, and scoring efficiently without needing the spotlight. He had multiple seasons where he pulled down double-digit boards, and his field goal percentage sat comfortably over 50%. During his time in New York, he went from rotation guy to double-double machine. He even had a rookie challenge performance where he went 14 for 14 from the field. That kind of efficiency wasn't a fluke either. After he landed in Golden State, he became a key piece before their championship core took over. He made 2 All-Star teams and even cracked the All-NBA list one year. When the Warriors won the title, his minutes were limited, but his impact wasn't forgotten. He was never a rim protector, but his physicality made up for it. His passing was solid for a big, and he ran the floor well. He was also originally left-handed, which helped his touch near the rim. When he retired in 2017, he walked away with over 11,000 points and a ring. Dave Cowens, a 6'9" redhead playing center in the land of giants, and still, he found a way to dominate. Drafted 4th overall in 1970, he showed up in Boston and just never stopped running. The guy played with non-stop energy, battling bigger players and crashing the boards like every rebound owed him money. He averaged nearly 14 rebounds a game across his entire career and logged over 13,000 total points without ever chasing shots. In 1973, he hit his peak, 20 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists per night, and walked away with the league's most valuable player. That same season, the Celtics went 68-14. He helped bring Boston 2 titles, made multiple All-Star teams, and grabbed a spot on the league's all-defensive teams 3 times. He even once led the Celtics in all 5 major stat categories in a single season. Cowens wasn't just a player. He later coached, including a stretch as a player coach, and eventually stops in Charlotte, Golden State, and even the WNBA. He made the Hall of Fame in the early 90s, had his number retired, and was named to both the 50 and 75 greatest players lists. He did it all. No flash, just ferocity. Paul Westphal, a smooth guard with brains, bounce, and buckets. He got drafted 10th overall by Boston in 1972, won a title with them as a role player, and then transformed into a star after landing in Phoenix. From the mid to late 70s, he averaged over 20 a game for 5 straight years, made 5 All-Star teams, and racked up All-NBA selections like it was easy. His field goal percentage hovered around 50%, which is wild for a guard who took plenty of contested shots. He wasn't just a scorer. He averaged over 4 assists a game and could break down defenses without wasting dribble. That wild moment in the 1976 finals when he called a technical timeout on purpose to get better court position, yeah, that was him. The league had to change the rules after that. As a coach, he didn't wait around. He took Phoenix to the finals in his first season and later coached in Seattle and Sacramento. He even led college squads, bringing the same tactical style. His basketball mind stood out on and off the floor. When he went into the Hall of Fame in 2019, it felt overdue. Player, coach, thinker. Westfall did it all without needing to shout about it. Pioneer era. This era goes from 1947 to 1956. George Mikan owned this stretch like it was built for him. He led the league in scoring 5 different seasons and kept the Lakers in permanent championship mode. The man just bullied the paint, dropped over 20 points a game year after year, and casually snatched titles like they were souvenirs. Even when he broke his wrist, he came back and still averaged over 30 points in the playoff. By the time he retired halfway through 56, it felt like the Lakers finally had to figure out life without their walking cheat code. Bob Cousy ran Boston's offense like it was his personal highlight reel. He led the league in assists 6 years in a row and had seasons scoring over 20 points per game, which just felt unfair. Cousy's flashy passes and constant pace kept the Celtics alive, even though they kept falling short in the playoffs. Every year, he made defenses look lost, keeping Boston dangerous even when the rest of the roster had gaps. Dolph Schayes was all about durability and production. He had seasons averaging over 20 points and 13 rebounds, basically dragging Syracuse into contention whether they were ready or not. He finally broke through in 55, leading the Nationals to a championship while putting up nearly 20 points a night in the playoffs. Schayes just did not slow down. Season after season, Paul Arizin missed 2 years for military service, but when he came back, it was like he never left. He led the league in scoring with over 25 points per game and eventually helped Philadelphia win it all in 56. Arizin's jumper was lethal, and when he got hot, defenses could only hope he missed. Neil Johnston quietly led the league in scoring 3 straight years and kept pulling down double-digit rebounds while doing it. He was the steady force the Warriors leaned on, especially in 56 when he helped them grab the championship, averaging over 20 points and 11 rebounds in the playoffs. Johnston just kept showing up. Ed Macauley kept stacking All-NBA selections while giving Boston a steady post presence. He had seasons scoring over 20 points per game, and even if the Celtics stumbled, Macaulay's efficient scoring and soft touch in the paint stayed reliable. He did not need to be flashy to be effective. Joe Folks was an early bucket getter, pure and simple. He led the league in scoring his first year and kept chucking up shots at a wild pace. His percentages were ugly, sure, but the volume scoring set the tone for future generations. Folks made defenses work, even if his best days came early. Bill Sharman became a free throw machine, leading the league multiple times while averaging close to 20 points per game in his later seasons. Even when Boston could not get over the hump, Sharman stayed steady, knocking down shots and keeping the offense afloat. Bob Pettit stormed into the league like he owned the place, averaging over 25 points and 16 rebounds in his second year. The Hawks were not title threats yet, but Pettit made sure nobody overlooked them. Larry Faust was a bruiser, cleaning the glass and scoring inside, while pushing the Pistons to back-to-back finals appearances. He averaged over 21 points and 11 rebounds in the 55 playoffs, making life tough for anyone in the paint. Jim Pollard and Vern Mickelson were essential for the Lakers dynasty, both chipping in scoring and rebounding while holding down their roles. Slater Martin's passing and defense kept things moving, and George Yardley gave the Pistons a real scoring lift, dropping over 17 points a game in his breakout seasons. First Stars era. This era is 1957 to 1969. This era is like watching basketball crawl out of the primordial soup and discover fire. The league is still mostly cigarette smoke and bad hairstyles, but for the first time, it's got actual stars. Real, undeniable stars. Guys who didn't just play ball, they warped reality around themselves. Bill Russell, the man wasn't playing basketball, he was conducting a shot-blocking symphony. 11 titles in 13 years, which is 11 more than your favorite team will ever sniff. And no, it never got old. He kept winning like it was a boring part-time job. 5 MVPs, by the way. Oh, and career rebounding numbers that read like a glitch in the Matrix. Over 20 rebounds per game for 11 straight seasons. Not sure if he slept or just harvested energy from Celtics banners. Wilt Chamberlain finally shows up and drops numbers so cartoonish they look like typos. 50 points per game for an entire season. Read that again, 50 per game. He had more rebounds than you've had good life decisions. 23,924 in total. League MVP 4 times. And just to annoy everyone, he led the league in assists one season for fun. But back then, The only thing taller than Wilt was Boston's dynasty, so he kept running into Russell like a poor man's wrecking ball. Although he did win with Philly in '67, when he finally snapped the Celtics' stranglehold and reminded everyone he wasn't just a stat-padding myth. Jerry West debuts, and this guy was basically playoff heartbreak with a jump shot. Mr. Clutch, but sadly, not Mr. Ring, though he does get it eventually, just not in this era. He dragged the Lakers to the finals over and over, only to get smothered by Boston's basketball death code. But still, West was an absolute problem. League scoring leader, assist machine, and somehow managed to win Finals MVP in 1969 on the losing team. Yes, they gave it to him anyway because he was too good to ignore. That's so bleak. It circles back to impressive. Oscar Robertson, basketball's first triple-double savant, averaged a triple-double across an entire season in 1962. That's 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists per game, like it was a casual Tuesday. MVP in '64. Also played for Cincinnati, which is a reminder that the NBA once trusted cities that now barely host minor league baseball teams. Elgin Baylor was basically a one-man fast-forward button for basketball, acrobatics in an era where most players looked like gym teachers in short shorts. He once dropped 61 points in a finals game, which feels illegal for the 60s. Still, like West, Elgin got repeatedly ambushed by Boston's hit squad. Then there's the secondary cast. Sam Jones, Boston's silent killer, sniping clutch shots while everyone drooled over Russell. John Havlicek runs around like he's got 12 lungs, casually bagging titles. Hal Greer, steady and smooth, carried the Sixers alongside Wilt. And you even get early glimpses of Walt Frazier, though he's still just a stylish understudy. This era wasn't perfect. There were fewer teams, the pace was bonkers, and some of these guys played 48 minutes, just because nobody trusted the bench. But stars were born here, superstar, legends. The game grew up, got a little swagger, and set the stage for the chaos to come. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to start posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Game Changers era. This is 1970 to 1977. Kareem was a cheat code with sideburns. His skyhook should have been outlawed under the Geneva Conventions. He won 5 MVPs in this span. He averaged over 30 points per game 4 different times, led the league in blocked shots 3 times, and even when his team cratered, like Milwaukee in '75, he still dragged them to respectability like a tired parent, carrying 4 toddlers through an airport. After being traded to Los Angeles in 1975, he basically set up a beach chair at the All-NBA first team table and refused to leave. By 1977, he was MVP again and almost got the Lakers to the finals. Again, the man was allergic to mediocrity. Julius Erving, aka Dr. J, lived in the ABA for most of this era, basically a basketball universe, where every play was a dunk contest and the rules were written on a napkin. But my word, he was magnificent. He won 3 ABA MVPs, dropped 30 plus points per game like it was easy, and somehow made a backwards one-handed floating layup look routine. After the merger, he joined the NBA in 1976 and immediately made the All-NBA first team and took Philly to the finals. Walt Frazier got even better. He was a defensive wizard who dressed like a disco Bond villain. In this stretch, he was still elite, making All-NBA and All-Defensive first teams like they were coupon, and led the Knicks to their second title in '73. Smooth, stylish, and reliable, he was the human version of a suede jacket with a perfect fadeaway jumper. Rick Barry bounced between the ABA and NBA like a man trying to find a better deal. Once back in Golden State, he detonated the league in 1975 by winning the title and the Finals MVP while shooting free throws underhand like a man with nothing to prove. His shooting percentages were absurd, and he still led the league in free throw percentage multiple times. Just an infuriatingly good player who never blinked. Jerry West, bless him, started the decade still torturing opponents with his jumper and his frown. He finally won a ring in '72, led the league in assists that year, and then quietly retired in '74 because he decided having a silhouette on the league's logo was enough legacy for one lifetime. John Havlicek was out here aging in reverse. He made All-NBA teams every year until 1975 and won 2 more titles in '74 and '76. Finals MVP at age 34. Please explain that to science. Dave Cowan showed up like an angry tomato in sneakers and won MVP in '73. He led the Celtics to 2 titles, rebounded like his rent depended on it, and routinely sacrificed his body. One of the grimiest superstars ever. Wes Unseld was still flattening people with outlet passes. His scoring fell off a cliff, but his rebounding and passing stayed elite. Elvin Hayes put up 20 plus points and 12 rebounds every year. He never stopped grinding. Never. Bob McAdoo had a 3-year stretch where he averaged over 30 points per game, won MVP in 75, and casually led the league in scoring 3 straight years. He did this on the Buffalo Braves, a team whose most enduring legacy is that they don't exist anymore. George McGinnis and Paul Westphal both entered the NBA from the ABA and immediately made a mess. McGinnis was a walking 2020 guy. Westphal helped Phoenix nearly steal a ring in 76. Both acted like the NBA was lucky to have them. And they were right. Nate Archibald had a season in 1973 where he led the league in both scoring and assists. That's like leading your company in sales and fixing the printer. His teams were awful, but Tiny was chaos incarnate. Bill Walton barely played for 3 years, and then in 1977, exploded. He led Portland to a ring, dominated the playoffs, and averaged 15 rebounds while passing like a guard. Oh, and finals, MVP, naturally. His bones may have been paper mache, but his talent was titanium. Rest in peace to a legend. Legends era. This era goes from 1978 to 1984. Larry Bird walked into the league and immediately acted like he owned the place. Right from his rookie year, he flipped Boston from bottom feeders to a 61-win team. His scoring, rebounding, passing, he just did it all. 5 straight All-NBA first-team selections, 2 titles, and a Finals MVP in '84, where he basically dragged Boston across the finish line. He made winning look routine, like he could do it in his sleep. Magic Johnson was the engine of the Showtime Lakers. And no, that's not just hype. 2 rings, 2 Finals MVPs, and playmaking that looked like he had eyes in the back of his head. He led the league in assists in '84, and of course gave fans highlight reels that still get replayed like they happened yesterday. When he played center in the '80 finals and still dominated, it felt unfair. Actually, it was unfair. Kareem, already a legend before this era, just kept stacking numbers like taxes. He grabbed an MVP in '80, won 2 rings, and never let the skyhook cool off, scoring over 20 a game like it was mandatory, plus anchoring the defense with nearly 3 blocks per night. Even in his mid-30s, he kept embarrassing younger centers regularly. Moses Malone was on full demolition mode this entire time, leading the league in rebounds year after year like he was allergic to anyone else grabbing boards. He pulled off the MVP and Finals MVP double in '83 when he carried Philly to a clean sweep of the Lakers. Dr. J himself didn't slow down at all. He grabbed an MVP in '81 and finally got his ring in '83. Even with Malone joining Philly, Irving stayed the heart of the team, giving them scoring, defense, and leadership every single night. His high-flying game and relentless energy never really dipped, even as he closed in on his mid-30s. George Gervin, the Iceman, had zero interest in doing anything but scoring buckets at a ridiculous rate. He won 3 scoring titles in this stretch and made it look way too easy. Spurs fans just watched him cook defenders night after night, even if the playoff success never quite followed. Still, the man filled it up, period. Bernard King was all gas, no breaks when healthy. He had the league on notice in '84, dropping over 26 a game and barely breaking a sweat doing it. Injuries tripped him up before that, but once he got rolling, defenders were basically passengers on his highlight reel. Adrian Dantley, he might as well have been automatic from the field. Over 50% shooting while living at the free throw line, pouring in 30 a night like it was his job, which to be fair, it was. Utah kept riding him, and he kept delivering, even if the playoff exits came too soon. Sidney Moncrief was Milwaukee's heartbeat, plain and simple. Back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards, while still scoring around 20 a night. He made life miserable for anyone he guarded, and still had enough left to carry the offense when they needed it. Isaiah Thomas wasted 0 time taking over in Detroit. By '84, he was already dishing out over 11 assists a game and giving defenders fits. His playoff debut, just a casual 24 points and 15 assists per game. No big deal. Dennis Johnson kept showing up when it mattered, locking down guards and playing with a chip on his shoulder. 2 titles in this run, including a Finals MVP, and he made life tough for even the best scorers out there. Jack Sikma held it down for Seattle, crashing the boards and hitting free throws like a guard. His early stretch big style kept the Sonics relevant, even after the title run ended. Alex English kept Denver alive every single night, pouring in points with ridiculous consistency. The man barely missed, even if Denver's defense did. Mark Aguirre turned Dallas from afterthoughts into playoff contenders, scoring at will and making sure defenders regretted every lazy closeout. Robert Parrish, quiet killer, holding down the paint in Boston, rebounding, blocking shots, and doing it all without needing the spotlight. GOATS era. This is 1985 to 95. This wasn't just basketball, it was history. First up, Michael Jordan. Last time he was a rookie dunk contest guy. Now, he's the whole sport. 32 points a game, like it's nothing. 7 straight scoring titles, 3 rings, 3 finals MVPs, a defensive player of the year just for good measure. He took the league, the playoffs, your hopes and dreams, and shredded them all. Retired in 93, played baseball like an overachieving gym teacher, came back in 95 and still dropped 27 a night. Delusional magic. Johnson kept Showtime alive way longer than anyone expected. He added 3 MVPs and 2 more rings to his collection, basically averaged a double-double with assists, and made passing look like sorcery. Then, right as the Lakers were still contending, Magic got hit with the HIV diagnosis in 1991. He left the game still at the top and somehow made his exit feel like a championship moment. Unmatched charisma, unreal production. Larry Bird, man, it got rough. He went from MVP level Bird to my back hates me Bird, but even then he squeezed out another title in 86, won finals MVP, and kept dropping 24 a game like it was a casual hobby. His shot, lethal. His passing, sharp as ever. His body, betraying him at every turn. A gritty, painful, glorious finale. Hakeem flipped the league upside down. Dream shake, nightmare fuel for defenders. 2 straight titles in 94 and 95. Finals MVPs both years, and played like he was controlling the game on cheat codes. He led the league in blocks, destroyed big men nightly, and carried Houston like it was a backpack full of bricks, without even sweating. Karl Malone spent this whole era pretending the regular season was the finals. He played every game like it was his duty as an unpaid intern. Nearly 26 points, over 10 boards, just ruthless. Only problem? Playoffs were where hope went to die. He and Stockton ran pick and roll until it felt like Groundhog Day, and still couldn't break through. Charles Barkley was an undersized power forward who treated physics like a rumor. Nearly 24 points and 12 rebounds per game, while looking like he just wandered in from a barbecue. His MVP year in Phoenix, beautiful chaos. Led them to the finals, then ran into Jordan like a cartoon running into a brick wall painted to look like a tunnel. Patrick Ewing did the heavy lifting in New York. Mid-range jumpers, rebounds, blocked shots, you name it. Made the finals in 94, but Hakeem checked him like a coat at the door. He kept New York relevant for a decade, which is almost as hard as winning a title, honestly. David Robinson entered the chat like a disciplined wrecking ball. 26 points, 12 rebounds, nearly 4 blocks. This man was a stat sheet come to life. He won MVP in 95, but kept getting stuck in playoff purgatory, waiting for help that wasn't coming. Scottie Pippen graduated from sidekick to headline act, while Jordan went to play baseball. First team All-NBA, All-Defensive Menace, All-Star MVP. He basically ran Chicago like a very serious substitute teacher. When MJ came back, they picked up right where they left off, ruining everyone else's postseason. Clyde Drexler was quietly cooking the whole time. Multiple All-NBA selections, kept Portland dangerous, then jumped to Houston just in time to snag a ring with Hakeem. Timing is everything. Stockton kept spoon-feeding Malone like it was breakfast in bed. 11 assists a night for a decade? Absurd. Shame the playoffs weren't as kind. And Dominique Wilkins, still dunking like the rim owed him money. 30 points a night some seasons, but Atlanta's playoff runs fizzled faster than his highlights went viral. The grit era. This is 1996 to 2002. This was basketball's blue-collar phase. Blood, bruises, and band-aids. Less flash, more fight. Defense reigned. Scoring meant survival, and you had to earn everything. Shaq was a sentient steamroller. He averaged 28 points and over 12 rebounds per game, shot nearly 58% from the field, and absolutely refused to make free throws on purpose. He won 3 straight titles and 3 finals MVPs, turning the paint into a war zone. 38 points and 17 rebounds in the 2000 finals? That's not a stat line. That's a war crime. Tim Duncan showed up in 1997 looking like a bank manager and played like a deity. He won a ring his second season, snagged finals MVP, and basically averaged 23 and 12 for 5 years straight. No flash, just surgical destruction. His fundamentals were so sound, you could teach geometry off his footwork. Kobe Bryant started out riding pine and ended the era as a 3-time champion. He grew from 7 points per game in year 1 to 28 by year 5. First team All-NBA by 23. And somehow, his defense was just as good. He was like a teenager who found the cheat codes and never logged off. Allen Iverson was 6 feet of pure audacity. He won MVP in 2001 while averaging 31 points per game. He dragged the Sixers to the finals with scoring bursts, ankle breakers, and what appeared to be actual defiance of physics. His game 1 against the Lakers, 48 points, and a step over Tyronn Lue that echoed through time. Kevin Garnett did everything. Points, rebounds, assists, blocks, poetry. Maybe Carpenter, 22 and 11 averages, 5 All-Star appearances, no help. His playoff record, a tragic comedy. But don't blame him. He was doing calculus on a chalkboard while his teammates were eating glue. Dirk Nowitzki arrived with the haircut of a substitute teacher and the jumper of a demigod. By 2002, he was dropping 23 a night and shooting nearly 38% from deep. As a 7-footer, he basically invented the stretch 4 while wearing oversized tube socks. Jason Kidd passed like he had eyes in the walls. 9 assists per game, 2 steals, and about 41% shooting, which is, well, generous. But he turned broken teams into contenders. The 2002 Nets made the finals because Kidd decided they would, and everyone just sort of nodded and followed. Gary Payton was still talking trash and taking names. Over 20 points, 8 assists, and 2 steals per game. 6 straight, all-defensive first teams. In this stretch, he was the only guy who could talk you out of your game while stealing your lunch and your dignity. Tracy McGrady went from barely there Raptor to full-blown sorcerer in Orlando. 27 points per game, 7 boards, 5 assists. Oh, and 31 points per game in the playoffs. If his team hadn't been made of cardboard and optimism, we'd be talking dynasty. Vince Carter dunked so hard, he broke physics and international relations. 25 points per game, nearly 40% from 3. And he made Toronto feel like an actual team. His dunk contest win might be the most iconic moment of the entire era, which tells you everything about the league's entertainment value. Chris Webber finally found peace in Sacramento. 23 points, 10 boards, and 5 assists per game, while making the Kings fun, which should have been impossible. His reward? Constant heartbreak by way of the Lakers and several missed whistles. Ray Allen shot like a machine built to make you sad. Nearly 40% from 3, 89% from the line, and over 22 points per game in his best seasons. If you gave him an inch, you got torched. And yet, no rings, just moral victories and buckets. Paul Pierce was the Celtics before they were good again. 26 points per game by 2002, dragging Boston into relevance while defenders dragged him to the floor. His playoff run in 2002, 25 a night. Dude was a walking fourth quarter. Steve Nash was still in beta. 17 points and almost 8 assists per game by the end, shooting 41% from 3, and kind of looking like a substitute math teacher who wandered into the wrong gym and somehow ran the offense. Alonzo Mourning was all heart, literally. 19 points, almost 3 blocks a game, and a pair of Defensive Player of the Year trophies before kidney disease sidelined him. A warrior in every sense, holding down the paint like rent was due nightly. The grit era wasn't pretty. It was sweat, fists, bruised egos, and hard-earned stats. But it gave us some of the most grounded, grinded-out basketball in history. Less finesse, more fight. And if you weren't built for contact, too bad. The paint belonged to Shaq, the wins went to Duncan, and the bruises were distributed evenly. GOATs, Part 2. Era. This era goes from 2003 to 2010, and it's just packed with guys who eventually became NBA legends. LeBron James, for starters, was running around like he was built in a lab, throwing up 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists every night, like it was light work. He grabbed back-to-back MVPs to close the era, and trust me, people acted like the Cavaliers were title-bound every season, even though they kept falling short. Lost to the Magic in the East Finals, Celtics took him out twice, and yeah, Spurs swept him in his first finals. Cleveland fans just kept saying it was his time over and over. Now, Kobe Bryant was still hooping, averaging over 28 a night. With 2 championships and 2 finals MVPs to show for it, he basically lived in the all-NBA first team. That 81-point game? Absolutely ridiculous. He carried the Lakers through tough playoff stretches, even when they fell short in 2008. But once Paul Gasol showed up, it was game over for the rest of the West. Tim Duncan just kept doing Tim Duncan things. Nothing flashy, but 20 points, 11 rebounds, and a couple of blocks a night got it done. He bagged titles in 2003, 2005, and 2007, like it was just part of the schedule. Finals MVP in 2003, and people still managed to sleep on him like he wasn't dragging teams through playoff battles every single year. Kevin Garnett's move to Boston flipped the switch completely. He locked up the paint, controlled the boards, and led that fierce defense. Averaging over 20 points and 11 rebounds, he finally got his ring in 2008. Celtics fans never shut up about how that squad was unbeatable. And to be fair, for that season, they kinda were. Dirk Nowitzki was still here. He was torching defenders with that high release jumper, nearly 25 points and 9 boards a game. He pulled off an MVP in 2007, but then ran into the Warriors and their chaos. And yeah, blowing that 2-0 lead in the finals stung, but Dirk kept giving teams nightmares every single year. D-Wade was also still balling. He had Miami losing their minds in 2006. He took over the finals, averaging 34 points a game, and dragged the Heat back from the dead against Dallas. Even though they fell off right after, Wade kept balling like he had something to prove, flying around on both ends. Chris Paul basically ran the Hornets like it was his personal project. Almost 20 points, over 10 assists a game, and a crazy high basketball IQ kept them competitive. He came second in MVP voting to Kobe, and people genuinely thought he was about to take over the league. Dwight Howard had Orlando convinced they were contenders, nearly 13 boards and 2 blocks a game, and he bullied his way to the finals in 2009. Magic fans would not stop hyping up that defense. And honestly, Dwight earned it. Carmelo Anthony kept Denver alive with pure scoring, almost 25 points a night, dragged them to the West Finals in 2009, and Nuggets fans acted like he was unstoppable. Paul Pierce changed Boston. He had his moment in 2008, snagging Finals MVP and making Celtics fans unbearable with the victory laps. He played with that swagger like he knew they were always in the mix. Steve Nash leveled up. He was flying up and down the floor, dropping nearly 11 assists every night. Suns fans really thought they had the formula, but the West Finals was as far as they got. Tony Parker sliced defenses for nearly 19 points a game, winning 3 rings with the Spurs. Manu kept showing up in clutch moments, hitting wild shots like it was nothing. Chauncey Billups had Detroit acting like they were royalty, grabbing that Finals MVP and keeping the Pistons deep in the playoffs year after year. Ray Allen, meanwhile, shot the lights out and gave Boston the spacing they needed for that title run in 2008. Flashy era. This era goes from 2011 to 2016, and it felt like the entire league turned into a highlight reel. LeBron James flipped the script from his earlier years. He was still dropping 27 a game, but now doing it on over 53% shooting while dragging his team to 6 straight finals. He actually cashed in too, winning rings in 2012, 2013, and pulling off that wild comeback in 2016. His numbers in that finals were straight up video game nonsense, almost averaging a triple-double while carrying Cleveland all the way through. Steph Curry basically broke basketball in half. Over this stretch, he lit up defenses with more than 44% shooting from 3. And in 2016, he hit an absurd 402 threes in one season. He grabbed 2 MVPs, one of them unanimous, and had the Warriors sprinting to a 73-win season like it was nothing. His handle and quick release had defenders spinning in circles, and when he was hot, it was lights out before you could blink. Kevin Durant stayed a scoring machine, pumping out over 28 points a game like it was easy. His 2014 MVP season was pure dominance, dropping 32 a night while keeping efficiency through the roof. He kept dragging Oklahoma City deep into the playoffs, but they just kept running into brick walls, like the Heat in 2012 and the Warriors in 2016. Kawhi Leonard turned into a problem for everybody, not just a defender anymore. He started putting up serious points while locking down stars on the other end. He snagged 2 straight Defensive Player of the Year awards and clamped LeBron in the 2014 finals, grabbing the finals MVP for himself. Quiet as ever, but his game was screaming loud. James Harden went from 6th man to franchise player, putting up 27 a night with Houston. His step-back 3 became impossible to guard, and by 2015, he was right there in the MVP conversation. People could not stop arguing over whether he was carrying the Rockets or just cooking defenders for fun. Chris Paul stayed steady, leading the Clippers with almost 10 assists a night. His defense was still nasty too, leading the league in steals a couple of times. Even though playoff success dodged him, he kept the Clippers right in the thick of things every single year. Russell Westbrook played like he had rocket fuel in his bloodstream. Flying up and down the floor, he stacked up 18 triple-doubles in 2016 alone. He was a one-man hurricane, pulling down over 7 boards and dishing 8 assists a night while still scoring over 23. Anthony Davis made sure the paint belonged to him, blocking shots left and right and giving New Orleans over 22 points a game. He showed up in his playoff debut with 31 points and 11 boards a night. Even though the Warriors cut that run short fast, Klay Thompson lived at the 3-point line, firing away at over 42%. When he caught fire, like that 37-point quarter, it was like watching a flamethrower in action. He gave the Warriors the perfect running mate next to Curry. Draymond Green basically did everything at once: scoring, passing, defending, you name it. In 2016, he averaged nearly 14 points, close to 10 boards, and over 7 assists. He was the heartbeat of Golden State's small ball chaos. Kyrie iced the 2016 finals with that cold-blooded dagger 3. He averaged 26 points in that series, and his ball handling was pure art, making defenders trip over themselves night after night. Damian Lillard just kept pulling up from anywhere, averaging over 22 points a game and making that insane playoff buzzer beater that sent Houston packing with less than a second left. LaMarcus Aldridge kept it smooth, giving Portland over 21 points and 9 boards a night. His mid-range game was automatic, and when he caught fire, it was basically free points. Blake Griffin made posters every single night, averaging 21 points and nearly 10 boards, all while delivering dunk after dunk. His 2014 season had people thinking he was sneaking into the MVP conversation for good reason. Paul George fought back from a brutal injury and kept coming strong, locking in defense and dropping 18 points a game. His battles with LeBron in the East Finals were pure entertainment, pushing Miami to the brink more than once. Settled era. These stars are settled in NBA history. This era goes from 2017 to 2020, and it felt like everything settled into chaos in the most predictable way possible. LeBron James switched it up again, this time putting the Lakers back on the map. After dragging the Cavaliers to another finals in 2018, he went full force with Los Angeles, averaging almost 28 points, 8 boards, and 9 assists a game. When the bubble hit, he turned it up even more, leading the Lakers to a title and picking up yet another finals MVP. He was basically playing point guard in a forward's body and running the show from start to finish. Kevin Durant, in this stretch, looked like a cheap code wearing a Warriors jersey. Back-to-back titles and back-to-back finals MVPs made it clear he was no sidekick. He shot over 52% from the field and still kept that smooth scoring flow. Even with that brutal Achilles tear in 2019, he had already stacked up the hardware, and the Warriors were coasting thanks to him. Steph Curry kept firing away like the rim was twice as big. He averaged over 26 points a game and kept defenses scrambling, especially during those 2 championship runs. Even when injuries wrecked the roster in 2019, he still fought hard in the finals, dropping over 30 points a game against the Raptors. Kawhi Leonard, even more, turned into a full-on superstar. His title run with the Raptors in 2019 was ridiculous, averaging over 30 points and knocking down that absurd Game 7 buzzer beater over Philly. Raptors fans lost their minds, and honestly, I get it. James Harden basically played like he was trying to break the game. 32 points a night across these seasons and leading the league in scoring 3 times, including a wild 36 points a game in 2019. Every night, it felt like he was hunting stepbacks and living at the free throw line. Giannis turned into an unstoppable force of nature. He was dropping nearly 27 points and 12 rebounds a game, grabbing an MVP in 2019 while bullying anyone in his way. He turned fast breaks into dunk contests and made Milwaukee believe they were title contenders. Anthony Davis finally found the spotlight with LeBron. He averaged 26 points and over 10 rebounds, and his defense was a wall. That title run in 2020 showed just how valuable he was, handling business on both ends, like it was expected. DeMar kept putting up quiet but solid numbers, scoring 22 a game. He had his best year with Toronto right before they traded him for Kawhi, and after landing in San Antonio, he just kept doing his thing, even if people stopped paying attention. Damian Lillard kept throwing daggers from the parking lot, putting up nearly 27 points a game. His series-winning shot over Paul George in 2019 felt like the entire internet exploded in real time. Jimmy Butler grabbed Miami by the throat and refused to let go. In the 2020 bubble, he averaged 22 points, 6 boards, and 6 assists, dragging that underdog squad all the way to the finals and making people rethink the Heat completely. Joel Embiid kept dominating the paint, giving Philly over 24 points and 11 boards a night. His inside presence was a nightmare, and he had them right in the playoff mix every year. Nikola Jokic was quietly stacking triple-doubles and keeping Denver dangerous. Nearly 20 points, 10 rebounds, and almost 7 assists a night made him the engine of the Nuggets, and his breakout year in 2020 proved he was way more than just a big body. Russell Westbrook went full chaos mode, averaging a triple-double again and winning MVP in 2017. He played like every game owed him something, dropping over 31 points that season while filling up the stat sheet every single night. Kyle Lowry, steady as ever, helped lead the Raptors to that unexpected title in 2019. He scored 15 a game in the playoffs and played tough on both ends, making big plays when it mattered. Kyrie Irving bounced from Cleveland to Boston to Brooklyn, averaging over 24 points and hitting shots from everywhere. Even with the injuries, his handles and shot making stayed ridiculous, keeping him in the spotlight no matter where he landed. Today's era. This era goes from 2021 to 2025. And honestly, it feels like the whole league just decided to put the foot on the gas and never let up. Nikola Jokic went from fun big man to full-blown basketball overlord. He was stacking up MVPs like they were rewards at a carnival, dropping near triple-doubles every night, and dragged Denver to their first title in franchise history. His passing made defenses look completely lost, and when they tried to trap him, he just threw lasers to cutters like he was bored. Giannis kept doing damage, flying down the court like he was powered by a jetpack. He was still grabbing 12 boards a night and bullying the paint. But this time around, injuries crept in and kept him out of the playoffs in 2024. Even so, he was a walking 30 points, and Milwaukee fans clung to every single dunk like it was a lifeline. Steph Curry, yeah, he was still wrecking scoreboards with his threes, but this era felt a little different. He grabbed one more ring early on, then ran into playoff walls, missing the dance in 2024. Still, his shooting percentages stayed absurd, and he even picked up Clutch Player of the Year like it was just another day at the office. LeBron James somehow kept doing this at an age when most people would be looking for retirement homes, not all-star appearances. He flirted with 30 points per game early in this run, but his Lakers were inconsistent at best. He still dragged them to the playoffs, even the conference finals once, but the mileage was definitely showing, even if his numbers refused to drop off. Though who knows what will happen this year. Kevin Durant bounced around, landing in Phoenix after Brooklyn, but wherever he went, the buckets followed. He stayed a smooth scorer, dropping nearly 27 a game while still hitting threes at a ridiculous clip. Injuries and early playoff exits, though, made it feel like people started to forget just how lethal he still is. Joel Embiid is busy stacking points like nobody's business, leading the league in scoring and finally nabbing his MVP. But every time the playoffs rolled around, it was either injuries or brutal exits that cut his run short. Philly fans kept holding out hope, but the frustration was real. Luka is basically a cheat code in human form. He led the league in scoring and dragged Dallas all the way to the finals in 2024, putting up near triple-doubles along the way. His step-back three, an absurd vision, kept defenders spinning, and he made every game feel like a highlight show. Now he's a Laker somehow. Jason Tatum finally got over the hump, leading Boston to a title while stuffing the stat sheet every night. He kept the scoring steady around 27 a game and turned into a rock for the Celtics, with playoff performances that quieted every critic. Jimmy Butler somehow stayed in the conversation, dragging Miami to another finals in 2023. Even with injuries cutting him down the next year, he still played like a man possessed, doing everything on the floor and leaving fans believing in Heat culture like it was gospel. He's now a warrior. Devin Booker kept Phoenix alive with his scoring bursts, regularly pushing close to 30 points a game and keeping defenders miserable. Playoff exits hit hard, but he kept firing away and delivering night after night. Anthony Davis stayed busy as the Lakers' defensive anchor, cleaning up rebounds and swatting shots like it was personal. When healthy, he's a dominant force. Although he's now a Maverick, Shea officially broke out, turning Oklahoma City into a legit contender. He's dropping 30 a night and making plays all over, forcing everybody to take him seriously. Kept flying through the air like gravity was optional, but off-court issues and injuries threw a wrench in his rise. Even so, when he plays, he lights up the floor with fearless drives and highlight dunks. Jalen Brunson came out of nowhere to lead the Knicks with scoring, control, and clutch performances. He turned into a real go-to guy, dropping 27 a game and making New York actually believe again. Donovan Mitchell helped turn Cleveland into a playoff regular, scoring with ease and staying aggressive even when the postseason got ugly. His consistency kept them in the mix year after year. Jaylen Brown finally carved out his own spotlight, grabbing a Finals MVP with the Celtics and giving Boston the perfect two-way punch alongside Tatum. Sabonis basically lived at the top of the rebounding charts, dishing assists like a point guard while holding down the paint for Sacramento. Fox turned Sacramento's speed into chaos, earning Clutch Player of the Year while pushing them into playoff relevance with his relentless pace. He's a Spur now. Anthony Edwards just kept getting better, bulldozing defenses with his scoring and helping Minnesota make real noise in the West. Wemby came in as a rookie and already felt like a cheat code, blocking shots and scoring with ease while making the Spurs believe their future arrived early. Tyrese Halliburton led Indiana with slick passing and scoring balance, keeping them in the playoff race and making their offense hum like a well-oiled machine. Kyrie, when healthy and steady, gave Dallas a huge lift alongside Luka, helping push them all the way to the finals while hitting tough shots like only he can. Now he's playing with Anthony Davis in Dallas, and that's today's era. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.